Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Mike Bartner Show. And the offseason is getting underway. Obviously, last night at like 2 a.m., I was asleep by like 12:30. Darren Raddysh got traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs for a 5th-round pick, then signed an 8-year deal. Oh, you got to turn off my computer volume right now. But Darren Raddysh signed 8 years, $8.5 million. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Joseph Woll trade that happened Tuesday. I feel like it happened so long ago at this point. Jim Hiller getting hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Call me the Steve Dangle podcast, the way that I'm covering the Toronto Maple Leafs so much in this episode. Kesselring got traded, of course. And then we are going to be going through all 32 teams' off seasons. We're going to be previewing them. Basically, we're just going to be bouncing ideas off of each other. I'm going to need you guys in the chat to get active if you're fans of certain teams, have the inside scoop. We're basically just going to be ripping through like their Puckpedia, seeing who they have as unrestricted free agents, restricted free agents. I built a little trade board that I have up. We're going to be talking about what these teams should be doing this summer, and what they probably will be doing, which for some teams might be the exact opposite, and they're going to end up pretty worse off after this offseason. But again, thank you all of you guys in the live chat for popping off. And yeah, let's get into the Darren Raddysh of it all. And Raddysh going to Toronto, it's not surprising. It's surprising the way that it happened at 2 a.m. I would have expected like a sign and trade, maybe closer, similar to Mitch Marner on like the 29th, on the 30th. They decided to get this done like almost 2 weeks before unrestricted free agency. I guess Tampa was just like, let's just go get an asset now for it that we for sure know that Darren Raddysh was not re-signing with us. Might as well pick him up. Might as well ship him off if we don't think that he's worth this 8-year deal at $8.5 million. Might as well go ship him off to a team that we might be competing against in the playoffs the next couple of years. And yeah, there is some serious sticker shock when it, of course, comes to Darren Raddysh, a guy that's previous high of points was 37, which he did in the 2025 season. Then he goes for this monster 70-point season. He scores 22 goals while shooting like 10%, which I looked it up. Only like Gothisbehere and Chychrun had a higher shooting percentage among defensemen that actually play like top 4 minutes, as well as like top power play. It shocked me. Initially, it shocked me. I knew that he was going to get a lot. I thought maybe on an 8-year deal it would be like 8.25. On a 7-year deal, when I did my contract predictions, I had it at 8.75. But yeah, it's definitely shocking off rip. But the more that I thought about it, I think for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think for like 25 teams, I would really hate them giving Darren Raddysh this kind of contract. But I don't hate it for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I maybe even like it a little bit, which is crazy. Like the Jim Hiller signing, hiring, I'm not going to be as high on. But I do see the vision with Darren Raddysh going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Call me crazy. I got called biased against the Toronto Maple Leafs because of John Tavares and all that stuff. I've actually come around in the last, 2 hours since I woke up, since this happened. I think Chaika might have cooked with this. When looking at Darren Raddysh, when looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs, what have they needed the last basically 2-3 years since Morgan Rielly started to regress? They needed a puck-moving top pair defenseman that can actually offer some kind of shooting threat on the power play. That is exactly what Darren Raddysh could bring. Is he a true number one? No, but he fits this team so desperately. You look at the fact that although he did play with Nikita Kucherov, he did play with Brandon Hagel, Braden Point, a lot of talented guys. Toronto does still have talented guys. They're drafting the guy that a lot of people, myself included, is comparing to the next Nikita Kucherov. When you look at their power play is going to be pretty goddamn good with McKenna, Nylander, Matthews, and John Tavares or Matthew Nyes on that top power play unit. So I think that the replication of the production, maybe not 70 points. Again, this year he was like an $11 million defenseman. That's obviously unreasonable, but I think he can be like a 55, 60-point guy for the Toronto Maple Leafs going forward. You look at this guy's micro stats this year, it does suggest that it's not just some kind of fluky, like all his teammates. He ranked in the top percentile in a lot of sizable stats. You look at the JFresh micro chart, he ranked 83% in zone exits, 96th percentile in exit possession, 98% in exit rate, 92% in pass exits, 71 percentile in carry exits, 97% in in-zone offense, and then 98% in shots. This guy absolutely spams shots, where I think that it is just such a need for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs who don't have their first round picks the next 2 years, I understand taking a swing like this. Yes, it could end up in a disaster. Darren Raddysh could be a 40-point guy, but you need to make some kind of change in the next 2 years to try to compete with Austin Matthews, which, yes, Darren Raddysh is 30 years old. Austin Matthews is going to be 29 at the start of next season. William Nylander's already 30 years old. It's not like they're this core that is still up and coming that's 24 to 26 years old. You can argue maybe with McKenna in the mix and Matthew Nyes, you should be thinking more about the future. But again, the future of the next 2 seasons is them not having their first round pick. So this could end up in a disaster, but if this ends up in a disaster, if the Toronto Maple Leafs just miss the playoffs the next 2 years, Austin Matthews is on his way out. You're just going to have to swallow kind of the final years of this contract. So I'm willing to take this risk, especially when you look at it, of course, the market. Like, what else was out there? Yes, hopefully, yes, last season there was like a Noah Dobson in terms of a top pair right-handed defenseman that actually was of solid age. It cost a lot of assets to get Noah Dobson. It cost 2 mid-first round picks. Like, the Darren Raddishes of the world are in high commodity just because every other top power play, top pair kind of defenseman is locked up, or they're going to cost you an arm and the leg. So I don't hate. Yes, I think this is an overpayment. It's maybe an overpayment by like $500,000 to $1 million. Yes, if trying to think like the Montreal Canadiens. Yes, if like the San Jose Sharks did this, I wouldn't like it as much because it is a player that's 30 years old that is a little bit coming off a kind of contract year. But for Toronto, where the stakes are so high in the next couple of years, I don't mind it. And even I was digging into the stats from last year. Like even last year, he was a highly productive defenseman. He actually ranked 13th in the NHL in terms of even strength points per 60. So yes, this was the real breakout, but he's been a solid second pair offense defenseman. Again, last year, Hedman was mainly on the top power play, and he still had 37 points in 73 games. So again, this was the real breakout, but even last year, he was highly productive despite not playing in the biggest role. So it's not just a solely 1 year breakout out of nowhere. No, the prior 2 years, he just continued to grow and grow. He was a late bloomer. Where I'm starting to come around to this on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that there's like a 15% chance that this ends up great. He's well worth the contract. Like I don't see like insane upside because you're giving him 8 years, you're giving him 8.5. I think there's like a 45% chance that this is like just solid, like you about break even. And then probably like a 40% chance that it ends pretty poorly. But again, with the Toronto Maple Leafs, with the spot that they're in, they could not have trotted out Morgan Rielly as their number one, their pseudo number one defenseman. They needed some kind of clear upgrade. And obviously now they can potentially move off Morgan Rielly. And I think Morgan Rielly, they might actually be able to get like a second, a third round pick for Morgan Rielly just because teams have so much salary cap space and Morgan Rielly can still actually fit a role for a respective team as a second pair guy, as a second power play quarterback where, yeah, Raddysh is just a huge upgrade over Morgan Rielly. And they have nothing in the system. That's the other thing with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like they have Ben Danford, who's like an interesting defenseman prospect. It's not like there's some of these other teams that had young up and coming defensemen where you're not going to give Raddysh this bag to be your top power play guy when you want to give someone in the organization that role relatively soon. This was their only option. They had to somewhat overpay, whether it was through trade, whether it was through unrestricted free agency, to come in and be this team's pseudo number one defenseman. Like Treliving had put this team in such a bad goddamn spot with his management that they had to resort to something like this that, yeah, could end up being very stinky. But I think from what I've seen from Darren Raddysh the last couple of years, very solid puck mover, very, very intriguing shot from the blue line. He is an absolute howitzer. I'm willing to take a shot on this. This could end up working for the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team where this year they had to really reevaluate everything after how poor it went. I don't mind them taking a swing like this. I don't think it's going to be some kind of complete disaster, some kind of Darnell Nurse contract. I think the offensive tools are solid enough where you can bank on at least 45 points, 10 goals a season. I know defensively he's not very good, but I think he's going to be good on that top power play where I like it. I like it to a decent degree. And again, if they were picking at 5th overall, yeah, maybe you stay away from this if you think you're getting Chase Reed, if you're getting Carson Karls. They're very clearly going Gavin McKenna, where there was no route to improve the defense. Like we all would have slandered John Chaika if they just made, like, if they picked up like Tony DeAngelo to be a power play guy, offensive defenseman. If that was their only move this summer, you guys also would have been shitting on him for doing absolutely nothing. So I really don't hate this swing. Again, you don't really give up any assets. You give up a 5th round pick. Yes, the contract might be too many years. But again, with this core, although with McKenna now, it does kind of change maybe the timeline overall. Still, this team is going to have 4 to 5 years, hopefully, of more contention. Not like high-level contention, but maybe making the playoffs. Maybe some more moves can lead to that high-level contention. But Matthews, again, 29 years old in a couple of months. Nylander, 30 years old. It's not like they have this long time horizon where you're like, oh, the 6th or 7th year of the Raddysh deal is going to be an absolute disaster. It's looking like they're trying to retool relatively quickly in terms of getting this team back into contention. They're not building around Gavin McKenna. Do I think that that's maybe the right choice? I don't know. It's tough because, again, they don't have their 2 first-round picks, but they are clearly trying to get back into the playoffs, and this move definitely can help them with that. I think the overall sentiment is pretty low on this. From the Tampa perspective, as somebody said, as Shrimp said in the chat, no, he's saying Carlson to Carolina. I think it makes all the sense in the world for Tampa Bay to now be like, yeah, John Carlson, we'll just give you some kind of 2-year deal at $10 million. There was actually Pierre LeBrun, I think it was, said that now he expects Carlson to get like a $10 million deal on like 2 to 3 years. I think that makes sense for Tampa Bay to just be like, we're not comfortable in the 5 through 7 range of a Darren Raddysh contract. It's just too much money. We can get arguably a better player right now, and John Carlson maybe has more age regression relatively soon, but we can get him for 1.5 and avoid those kind of bad years, those age regression heavy years from Darren Raddysh in his mid to late 30s. So I don't hate it for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They were apparently only offering him like a 5x6 or like something. Like they were lowballing him, if we're going to be honest, but I don't hate their assessment of being like, we've missed the playoffs the last 4 years. We're not ready to lock you up. We couldn't get out of the first round with you making like $1 million this season. I'm not ready to spend my entire salary cap increase of $8 million solely on you. That's just something that I'm not willing to do. If you're Julien Brisebois, Darren Raddysh in the playoffs only had 1 goal and 1 assist. So from that perspective, I understand Tampa being like, we can go get a backup. Maybe they're just going to roll out Johansson again. I don't think that they should do that. We can go get a $2 to $3 million backup. We can get a $3 million right-handed defenseman. We can go get a $2.5 million forward with that money. Darren Raddysh is not this star talent where we can't replace his production on the power play. So I like it for Tampa. I like not giving out this egregious of a contract. Most of the contracts that they've given out during their tenure have been fantastic team-friendly deals. I think that they're going to be able to pivot hopefully into free agency through trade to replace this kind of money, and they're going to be perfectly fine. But yeah, quite the shocker. Just the fact that it happened at 2 a.m. Well, what were you guys? Did you guys stay up? Were you guys up at 2 a.m. and seeing this happen, or were you like me, where you rolled out of bed and were like, what the fuck? Darren Raddysh to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like how bold Chaika is being. I like that he's taking the bull by the horns and just saying, I'm getting super aggressive. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody thinks about a Jim Miller signing. I don't care what anybody thinks about me trading away Joseph Woll to get Emil Andre. It's very intriguing, his approach. Now we're going to talk about the Woll trade. I basically said it over on Twitter and Instagram. I like this more for Philadelphia just because Woll obviously is more of a proven product. He is a very injury-prone product. Looking at the fact that he seems to get injured every single year. Not the best playoff track record by Joseph Woll, but I think for Philadelphia, they're going to have, like, I wrote it out, and I think that they have like a top 10 tandem. Him and Vladar. Someone said, like, damn, that tandem doesn't sound that good. But in the NHL nowadays, like, if you have 2 guys that can put up a 903, like, consistently, that's like a top 10 tandem in the NHL. Yes, it maybe doesn't have the ceiling as some other guys in the NHL, some high-end starters that can get you the 910, get you the 915. But for Philadelphia, they're going to have like a top 15 to 25 goalie when healthy every single night in net. So that is very intriguing for Philadelphia. Are they giving up on Andre a little bit too early? That's definitely debatable. But again, they just like Cam York more. They like Jamie Drysdale more. I understand the perspective of being willing to part ways with Emil Andre. For Toronto, obviously they have the 2 AHL goalies that have looked fantastic this season. I'm going to botch the Russian's name, something I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but as well as Hildeby, who had like a 914 in the NHL. They're currently up 3-1 in the AHL finals, the Calder Cup finals. So they're just pivoting. They're going to bet on Anthony Stolarz staying healthy, which is a little bit scary. But Emil Andre, similar to Darren Raddysh, can provide the puck movement that they have severely lacked over the last couple of years. So Chaika clearly has a vision with these puck-moving defensemen, and I like that. That is the one thing that they obviously needed to address, and he is aware of the flaws with this team. He's not pussyfooting around it and thinking old school, thinking I need big-ass defensemen like Brad Treliving did. He's thinking smart. He's getting creative. He's going for the analytical darlings like an Emil Andre. Now, I do think with Raddysh, you can look at the micro stats. You can look at the advanced stats. He was playing a sizable role. He was Tampa's like number one defenseman throughout most of the season. Just definitely their number one offensive defenseman. For Andre, I don't love posting the analytics when you look at the fact that he was playing 15 minutes a night and his competition was like, he was pretty sheltered. He was basically just pretty sheltered in a limited role. Those don't tell the full story. When you see all the blue on the J-Fresh card, it's against easier competition. Can he be a Jordan Spence that had that level of success in limited roles, in sheltered roles, and then expand on top of that? It's definitely going to be interesting, but especially if they ship out Morgan Riley, he immediately becomes a very important piece to that team next year. So I've definitely warmed up to it, especially now after the Darren Raddysh, now that I'm seeing the vision from John Chaika. I'm liking this more for the Toronto Maple Leafs. This trade, I had it as like an A- and a B-. I'd probably bump it up to like an A-, like a B+, maybe for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like I'm liking it a lot more now that I'm seeing this vision. The Jim Hiller hiring is maybe the one negative that I have from this week of John Chaika. Just consider the fact, I know in LA he didn't have the most talent. It got pretty ugly. I know that he made the playoffs the first 2 years. That final year was a disaster in an absolute dog shit Western Conference wildcard race. He had them like out of the race basically by the time that he got fired. They only made the playoffs because after he got fired by DJ Smith became the interim head coach because they had so many goddamn overtime shootout losses. My only concern with him is, again, when you look at Emil Andre, will he actually, he says that he's analytical. Will he use the analytics? Will he prioritize some of these more undersized guys? Because we saw in LA, Jordan Spence only played 17 minutes. We saw this year, Brant Clark at the start of the season was playing like 17 minutes a night. I looked it up. Under Jim Hiller, he only played like 19 minutes a night. Meanwhile, once DJ Smith of all people, got the job, Brant Clark went up to like 21-30. And then LA ended up making the playoffs. So I hope that he embraces the analytics. I hope Chaika is in his ear telling him, this guy, if you give him an opportunity, he could be pretty special for this team. I know Hiller's analytics were always pretty good with the LA Kings, maybe until that final season. They were really good defensively with the analytics. And I think Toronto's defense core is actually kind of underrated defensively. I think it's actually a pretty solid group, especially after getting Darren Raddysh. So yeah, it's an interesting hiring. One other thing with that is the power play that everybody's talking about. When Hiller was the assistant coach with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he was in charge of the power play. They were second, and eighth in the NHL from 2017 to 2019. Meanwhile, the last 2 years under Berube, they've been 9th and 15th. So I've also somewhat warmed up to that hiring. I still don't like recycled head coaches that much. And I think Jim Hiller's tenure ended so poorly that I think he probably should have had to go serve again as an assistant somewhere else. I'd still give this like a C-, C, just because I think that they are somewhat placating to Austin Matthews, and I don't think that they should be doing that. Per se, I don't think Austin Matthews should be the GM like we see although Connor McDavid's also doing that and bringing in fucking Mike Babcock. But I don't think you should be placating so much to an Austin Matthews, to a William Nylander. Not saying that's solely what they're doing, but yeah, that's maybe my one concern with it. They're weighing in their thoughts a little bit too much. That's kind of it on the Toronto Maple Leafs talk. TML talk against my Steve Dangle podcast segment. I love the Steve Dangle podcast. But what are you guys saying in the chat? Yeah, Jordan Spence was very sheltered last year in LA. Towards the end of this season, he was playing like 24 minutes a night down the stretch. So hopefully, if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, Andre can just continue to evolve, continue to take steps in an elevated role. Because what is the left side of their defense looking like without? Yeah, right now, if Morgan Riley's gone, it's going to be like him and OEL as their left. Jake McCabe's technically a lefty, right? But he plays on the right side. I got the daily face-off up right now. McCabe. Yeah, Jake McCabe is a lefty, but they have him on the right side. So yeah, he's going to have a serious opportunity, especially if Morgan Riley ends up getting traded, which I think is decently likely, especially now that you bring in Darren Raddysh. $16 million for those guys combined is kind of scary into their early to mid-30s. Riley's already in his early 30s. So yeah, I think Riley is most likely gone. It's interesting. I'm intrigued with the start of the Chaika era. Do I know that it's going to be awesome? No. Is this a massive risk? Actually, again, I don't even think it's like that massive a risk with, again, the salary cap going up. I think it's a solid risk, but a risk given the situation that Brad Treliving left this team in, I'm willing to take. Like, if the Leafs were managed properly the last couple of years, they wouldn't have reached this point where they have to give a 30-year-old Darren Raddysh off a career year, an 8-year deal at $8.5 million. This is not like Leafs fans partying in the streets being like, we landed this is not John Tavares in 2018. We got our guy. They're like, okay, like shit has gotten so bad that we have to be elated that we're getting Darren Raddysh as our number one, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, Riley is on his way out. Things are happening in Toronto, man. Again, they've dominated the headlines this week. 2 big trades, the 2 biggest trades probably. Yeah, definitely. As well as a head coaching hire. So shout out John Chaika for keeping us entertained, giving me shit to talk about. And now we are going to move on to our other trade. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to spend time on the Ross Colton trade. I've talked about that on my other platforms. It's okay for Nashville. He's an expiring guy at $4 million. He's had a lot of success, solid forechecking forward. If he can get his shooting percentage back on track and plays in an elevated role, can get traded for like a second and a third at next year's deadline. And if you're Colorado, obviously, like he fell off a cliff this year, he's not that bad of a player, but you're just opening up that $4 million. But now we're going to move on to the Mike Kesselring trade, where I think some people are overreacting to it a little bit. I really like Mike Kesselring. He actually follows me on Instagram. He's the boy. I love his meet. He has like a fan page that's always interacting with my content and just like saying he's the greatest defenseman of all time. But yeah, he got traded as well as the 27th overall pick for the 20th overall pick. I see some people acting like this is like a fleece for the San Jose Sharks. I like this deal for the San Jose Sharks, but if you told me what Mike Kesselring was worth this summer, I would have said like a late second round pick. That's basically what they valued him at in this trade, where I like the bet for San Jose. They have enough prospects in the goddamn world where moving from 20th to 27th doesn't really matter that much. Mike Kesselring is a worthy bet to take. But again, when I see people acting like, oh, they're going Ivar Stenberg now, I'm like, are you saying Mike Kesselring is going to be the top pair right-handed defenseman of the future for the San Jose Sharks? Again, I love the guy. I think he could be a solid second pair guy maybe. But this is not some kind of them tipping their hat being like, yeah, Mike Kesselring and Chase Reed are about a toss-up in our books. Like, we got to relax to a degree. And for Buffalo, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade the 20th overall pick. They're just trying to get a better asset. And Mike Kesselring played 2 games in 34 games. I know that he dealt with injuries, but he just couldn't really make it work in Buffalo. For Buffalo, I don't think that they're going to massively regret this or anything like this. Like, they have their top 4 defensemen, although Byram might be on his way out. They have Dahlin. They have Byram. They have Power. They have Samuelson. They're fine in terms of the defense core. They're not going to be kicking themselves over this per se. And of course, like Kesselring came in the Doan trade. They're already winning the Doan trade by a metric mile, despite Kesselring not working out. When you look at Peterka versus Doan, their contracts and just which player I'd rather have. So yeah, I think for Buffalo, this just gives them a better singular piece to maybe make that trade that they're looking for this summer, now that they are a team that's really getting aggressive. And for San Jose, it's a solid, I wouldn't say reclamation project, because again, 2 years ago, he had 29 points with the Utah Hockey Club, played like 19 minutes a night, but it's a solid bet. You don't really give up that much, but I see people overreacting to it, acting like Kesselring's the sure thing. I hope that he's the sure thing. I'm rooting for him in San Jose, but some of the talk was like crazy. I was like, that's a very good deal for both parties. Then I see on the timeline, like, what is Buffalo doing? And I'm like, what? Like, we're not Jarmo Kekalainen. I hated the shed. I hated the Stanley deal. This is not a deal where I don't think he's going to be losing his mind per se. And you should not read into it so much regarding, again, Chase Reed, a guy that, go watch my top 30 prospects in the 2026 draft, that I am super high on. I don't think Mike Grier is I think Mike Grier is thinking second, third pair guy of the future with Mike Kesselring. That is the idea. That should be the idea. With Kesselring, I wanted my New York Islanders to get him. I'm so mad. Like, Kesselring off the market. Jordan Spence, probably not going to happen. Meanwhile, we're going to be after Radko Gudas, who apparently the Toronto Maple Leafs and Florida Panthers are after for like a 2 to 3 year deal at $4 million. That is going to be a stinky poo-poo contract. Like, I don't care any justification on Radko Gudas. You can ask Ducks fans. He's not even an NHL defenseman, like, anymore. I remember Annie OD on TikTok. She was like happy when he got suspended because she was like, he's bad. Like this is actually going to actively help the team in terms of us find our chemistry, be a better team without Radko Gudas in the lineup. So Darren Raddysh, I'm fine giving some kind of long-term contract. Radko Gudas, when we do our offseason previews, I don't think anybody should be touching Mr. Radko Gudas. But yeah, as someone says, like John Klingberg was their number one right-handed defense. Kesselring's going to get a serious bump in terms of his ice time. He's going to be playing. Do you believe Cale Makar isn't a superstar? Where did I say that? What are we talking about? Cale Makar's a superstar. But yeah, Kesselring, it's going to be interesting because he's going to play. He's going to play a lot, but he's going to play a lot of hard competition. Like in Utah, he was kind of in an interesting spot where they had some guys ahead of him. They had Sean Dursey. They had Sergachev, so he wasn't playing the toughest of minutes. It's going to be very interesting. Like he's a big-time upgrade compared to he might be like, is it ridiculous to say like he's their best defenseman next year if Mr. Sam Dickinson doesn't take a huge step? Yeah, they got Dickinson, Orlov, Klingberg. Ferraro's an unrestricted free agent where I'm much happy. The thing with San Jose, where I think maybe this is a fantastic deal, is they're not giving Raddysh that 8-year deal, if that makes sense. This is going to stop them from massively overpaying for a Darren Raddysh, for a Rasmus Anderson, where I like Greer's process of this. Be like, we're going to take a low, because again, we're not, even though we took this huge step this year, they're not expected to be like, make the Western Conference Finals next year. So I like that he's not rushing this rebuild like you maybe see some other teams do. If they went for a 30-year-old, goddamn, Darren Raddysh, that I'd be like, I have serious concerns. On top of course, the Kiefer Sherwood deal. Sherwood isn't as many years or as much money. Then I'd start getting hesitant. But he's thinking smart. He's going after a 25, 26-year-old right-handed defenseman that has a lot of interesting tools. And to that, I give a thumbs up. To that, I give a thumbs up to Mike Greer. But now, we're going to move on to our off-season previews for every single team. How this is going to work, we're just going to go on the Puckpedia page. We're just going to see what are their unrestricted free agents, what are their restricted free agents, what are some guys that we think could potentially fit on these teams in terms of solid pickups, what kind of salary cap space do they have. That's just what we're going to be doing. We're going to do it for every single team, what they should avoid in terms of certain players. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun. So we are going to be starting off, again, this is all going to be on Puckpedia, not sponsored by them, but they are the go-to in terms of looking this stuff up. And here is the Anaheim Ducks. They have 38. This is like a misleading $38 million. I've talked about this before. It looks like a lot of money, but then you go and you see Troy Terry, by the way, out like 4 to 6 months. He'll be back hopefully by like November, but that was kind of a surpriser. But yeah, they have, as you can see, Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, John Carlson not re-signing with the team at this point. Trouba, we'll talk about his deal. Zellweger, Mintnyakov. And I mean, I think that they should get a backup just because Ville Husso's not it, if we're going to be honest. But yeah, when looking at Anaheim, first off, just these two guys, I think Cutter Gauthier, you go 8 years, it might cost you 10.5. I don't really know what this restricted free agency market. It's of course tough, but I think he's going to drive a pretty hard bargain. You try to get him on 8 years. I mocked him at like 5 or 6 years just because I think Cutter Gauthier might be like a tough negotiator, considering he didn't even give the Philadelphia Flyers a chance when he wanted out. Leo Carlson, I think, will be easier just because you're like, he is the franchise. We've seen enough out of him the last couple of years. I think just 8 years, 11.75 is like more than fair for him. That would immediately be a top 30 contract in the NHL, considering this guy had 67 points in 70 games, is a 6'3", awesome skating centerman, already a star elite player in this league. So those two guys, that's going to eat up, if they go long term, that's going to eat up 22, 23 mil roughly. So we're down to 15 million. I wouldn't hate Trouba on like a 5x6. I know that is a little bit gross. Radko Gudas, he's gone. We can agree on that. Trouba, maybe you try to do you go longer term to get the AAV lower? Probably not. The problem is, but you also have Beckett Seneca, of course, is a restricted free agent. But we might clear McTavish's $7 million. That's the other thing. When you look at my trade board, let me pull that up real quick. I also cooked up this trade board for this. McTavish is decently high. So if they clear up that $7 million, then I would be willing to give Trouba some kind of 5-year deal at $6.5 million, just because he was so good with Jackson Lacombe. Here's the trade board. I have the more in-depth trade board YouTube video if you want to check it out. That was like 3 weeks ago. But here's just some guys that I jotted down that could be available for trade this summer. But we're going to go back to the Ducks now. And yeah, so I think Trouba, you try to go midterm solid AAV just because he was very solid. He's kind of got the New York stink out of him when he's not making $8 million in a flat cap system. I think I'm fine with him at like $6 million for a couple more years. I think Olin Zellweger is tough, man, because Lacombe's always going to be on that top power play. Do you value Zellweger enough as a second power play, third pair guy, or do you just want more like, is there a deal where you can get solid depth within the forward core? That's really what I would be looking for. Because if he's not going to get a solid opportunity, you might just be better off selling him now. I think Mintyukov is going to return. Probably a bridge, probably a 2 to 3 year deal at like $3 to $4 million. But Zellweger really is that interesting case where I think he could be on the move. Not because they don't like him, but Pat Verbeek does like his taller guys. I believe that it was the previous GM that drafted. No, 2022 was Verbeek hired by then. I might be off. He didn't draft. I know Verbeek didn't draft McTavish. But yeah, with the Ducks, it's kind of just like retaining this team this season. They could add a little bit, especially if they trade away McTavish, but you're just bringing it back another year of solid growth and hoping that players take a solid step. We are going to move on to the Boston Bruins. Only $15 million of salary cap space. Casey Middlestat could be a trade candidate. One more year at 5.75. Hasn't exactly clicked in Boston. Pavel Zacha extension. I think that would be like a solid 5 years, $6 million. Sean Corrali. Arvidsson, I'd try to bring back Arvidsson on like a 2 to 3 year deal at like $5-ish million, considering he fit in so good. He had like 25 goals, 29 assists, 54 points. The defense is mostly locked up. Mason Lohrei could be good trade bait. Okay, so they don't have a ton of unrestricted free agents. Again, in terms of the trade board, who they could, or let's go to unrestricted free agency, actually. Should they be targeting any of these guys? I'd probably stay away if I was them, especially considering their need of center, if anything. Rasmus Anderson is a guy that I think that they might target because they were in on him at the deadline. They would have to move out like Middlestat or something like that, open up some money. I guess I wouldn't hate it, but it's probably going to be like some egregious 6 or 7 year deal at like $8 million. If you could get Rasmus Anderson on like a 5 by 7.5, I'd be down for it. But I just don't think that's going to be Rasmus Anderson's ask, especially considering he's going to be at only 7 years, most likely. Over to the trade board. Is there anybody we like there for Boston? Let me know what you think. Boston to go get Tuck. I mean, him on a second line with like Zacha as his center. I think that contract would age pretty poorly, if I'm going to be honest. They could maybe be a McTavish. No, they have Minnan. They have Higgins. You don't bring in McTavish. Jake DeBrusk back on the Bruins would be kind of electric. If they could get him for free, he's only making like 5.5 mil. I wouldn't hate that. Hurdle could be an interesting shout. I don't know if he would waive, or maybe William Karlsson as like a cheap center option instead of going all in for like a Robert Thomas or something like that. Zadorov Trouba pair. That'd be electric. Yeah, Rasmus Anderson is the one guy that I think could potentially be Boston's big swing. But again, if they want to bring back Arvidsson, that's $5 million. Then they're down to $10 million. But again, they really don't have much besides that. So they actually could afford a Rasmus Anderson. And as you can see, like right-handed defense, they have Charlie McAvoy. Yeah, we're officially mocking Rasmus Anderson to the Boston Bruins. I disagree with it, but I think it's something that definitely could happen. Moving on to the Buffalo Sabres, one of the more let me move over scenes, my bad. Buffalo Sabres, $12 million of salary cap, and they have some notable White Castle ad right now. You want some garlic palm chicken sliders? Yeah, they are cap tight this summer. That is definitely a fair assessment. Alex Tuck, unrestricted free agent. Beck Malestein, let Beck Malestein walk. That is my one piece of advice. I said in the unrestricted free agency videos, I think someone's going to give him an egregiously bad deal, considering he's 6'3" and can skate. The rest of his game, not much, but he's 6'3" and he can skate. He's going to get like a 4x4. Next up, you got Peyton Krebs. I think that's like a 3-year deal at like $4-ish million. And then Zach Benson, RFA. Please lock him up on an 8-year deal. Please. To open up money, you can dump Jordan Greenway. He has a 5-team no-trade list. I would attach a 3rd-round pick to some kind. Maybe Vancouver just wants a veteran, more so leader, physical guy. Greenway seems to be beloved, so we're actually looking at around $16 million if you do that. The thing that makes this interesting now is apparently Bowen Byram wants like 8.5, especially after seeing Darren Raddish's contract. He probably wants like $9.5 million. That's something where I don't hate the idea of moving off Bowen Byram if he does want that much for more of a package that just gives you depth across the lineup. That gives you a solid right-handed defenseman that they thought that they were getting with like Shen and Stanley, although Stanley is a left-handed defenseman. I wouldn't hate moving off Bowen Byram just because you have power, you have Dahlin, you have Samuelson. You definitely would have to, it would have to be a solid package. But just considering this team, I think that they're built pretty good. After this season, they're going to be built very good. As you can see, the core pieces are locked up. They have Thompson at 7.1. Norris, if he can stay healthy, that's a good contract. Doan, 6.95. McLeod has another 2 years. And then the top 3 defensemen are locked up. And then hopefully you have Benson locked up for the foreseeable future. So this is going to be a bit of a cap crunch. They're going to have to get creative. But after that, I think that this team is going to be really poised to. They were already nearly a contender this summer. Alex Lyon extension, that would maybe be like a 3-year deal at 3.5. He is 33 years old. I guess he just caught on late where I thought that he was much younger. Interesting. Let's see what the chat is saying. Claude Giroux to Buffalo. I wouldn't hate that. But he's going to stay in Ottawa. I'd be shocked if he goes anywhere else. Siegenthaler to Buffalo for Byram. It would definitely have to be more on the New Jersey end. But if New Jersey's like, Luke Hughes, we don't think that you're potentially a number 1 defense bid. Bringing in Byram to kind of be the 1A, 1B would be interesting. Yeah, Mertka, I think, is probably still like 2 to 3 years away, which makes this tough. You're definitely more willing. If you saw Mertka at the NHL level, you'd definitely be more willing to pay or to let Bowen Byram walk. If you had that big right-handed defenseman, the problem is they fucked up this. If they had Parayko, I'd be like, definitely let Byram walk. You have your top 4 locked up. But now it's tough considering they whiffed so bad at the deadline. Quinn's extension eligible. That might be a little bit pricey. I think I'd go like 6 years, $6 million. I think that'd be a pretty good deal. I don't know if you would accept it. We're going to move on to the Calgary Flames. This might be the longest episode by a country mile, but we're going to hit every team. Calgary, I don't think you do much if you're Calgary. I think you maybe trade Blake Coleman. Morgan Frost, you can give him like a solid 4-year, $5 million. Actually, no. How was Morgan Frost this year? Was he good? I'm going to be honest. Didn't watch a ton of Flames hockey this year. Maybe you move off Morgan Frost now. He had 43 points. He had 23 goals. Okay, I wasn't completely off. But with Calgary, yeah, no offense to Calgary fans. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Ryan Strome, he'll be there next year. No one's taking him at $5 million. Yeah, they bottomed out this year. Like, they really don't have much. They're going to have a shit ton of salary cap. I just say, if you're Calgary, give me your bad contracts. I'll take your bad contracts that have 1 or 2 years left. The goal is to not be good next year. So Calgary is not really in the market for any of these guys. One thing that they might, Devin Cooley, he has 2 years left. Okay, I thought maybe an extension was in play. Zane Parekh, 2 years. Yeah, they don't even have any like extension candidates. Where like they're probably just not going to do much this summer. No offense to the Calgary Flames. I don't think. I mean, they traded a bunch of seconds. I would say maybe. Oh, they still have. Oh no, they got the seconds from Utah. I'm so dumb. Yeah, I would maybe package some of these for like if there's a Mike Kesselring type in their mid-20s. Let's go over to the trade board. Trade board. Let's see. Any of these guys could fit in Calgary. I mean, I wouldn't hate Braden Schneider. You give up a second and a third for Braden Schneider or something like that. I wouldn't hate that for Calgary. He's still 24, 25. But yeah, besides that, Simone Nemitz, I don't think makes a ton of sense with Zane Perek in the system. In terms of the draft, you kind of just go with best player. If Vigo Bjork's available at 6th, I'd probably especially go with that just because he's a center. But yeah, they're just in a spot where you don't want to rush what you're currently doing, and I don't think that they should. Next up, Carolina. They have $11.9 million of salary cap space. Their only real free agent is Mr. Nikishin. Anderson is an unrestricted free agent. If there's any Canes fans in the comments, let me know in the live chat. Let me know, what do you think, what they should do with Fred? Do you think they're going to bring back Freddie Anderson? Do they trust Kochetkov to stay healthy? Like, that's definitely my one concern. Not concern, but like my one question mark. Nikishin, I would go long. I would go 6 to 8 year deal at like $6-ish million, 6.5 maybe. I think that he maybe would be down to take that. He didn't have the best playoffs. He just wasn't really trusted that much by Brindamore. He only had 1 point in 17 games. He was still solid, but again, was just playing like 16 minutes a night. I don't think he's going to command some kind of like 8x8. So yeah, I'd go long term with Nikishin, and then you might still have around $6 million left, and you can dump Kakaniemi. That's what's like ridiculous. And maybe somebody would take a chance on Kakaniemi. Like, would a Calgary just be like, we'll take Kakaniemi for free. Give us a 3rd round pick. We'll take on Kakaniemi and then trade him in a couple of years when that $4.8 million doesn't look so bad. It's going to be interesting. But if they dump Kakaniemi, they'll have a remaining Nikishin 6. Yeah, they could have like $10 million, which is, again, just a testament to how good Tulski has built this team up until this point. Where, yeah, I don't even know who they, like, it's tough because Stankoven proved himself to be the legit second-line center, but, like, if Dylan Larkin was willing to come to Carolina, would you move off, like, Nadeau and other pieces to get him? It's definitely intriguing. In terms of free agents, I don't think Tulski is going to be too keen on this free agency class. Yeah, again, Carolina has this leftover money. I just don't know where they'd spend it. Carlson, you're saying Carlson to Carolina? That'd be fun just for like 2 years. Shane Gothenberg is good enough offensively, but yeah, I think they have their defense core like locked in. Traded curing cancer to manage a cup-winning team. I could see him bring back Michael Bunting. He was there for like a cup of coffee, right? Maybe an Oliver Bjorkstrand kind of depth add. But again, they're so set in terms of their top. Like, they're just fucking set. Like, I don't know. Like, Carolina has $10 million. I just don't know where they would spend it. I don't think they're going to be. I've seen like Hellebuck rumors. I'm like, they're fine. They're going to play the year out with Bussy, Kochetkov. They proved that goaltending, you can do it with not that good of goaltending. You don't have to give up premium assets. Bobby McMahon could be a good fit. Like, if they're moving Martinuk down on that line, down to the 4th line, I like that. But Bobby McMahon's probably going to sign such an egregious contract that I just don't see Tulski doing that. Next up, Chicago, where the 4th overall pick, if it's for like Matthew Nyes, I guess I wouldn't hate it, but I think that they probably should select at 4th overall. Whoops. Move over to the teams. Yeah, this team is still not very good. I still like the pieces on this team going forward. This summer, they need to do something in terms of a top 6 forward, but I don't think it should be. I don't love Alex Tuck, considering he's 30 years old. Like, again, they're going to get hammered regardless of what they do, but I do like how they haven't rushed this entirely. They don't really. Bedard's obviously an RFA. That's going to be, I would just go 7, 8 years, 13.5. I'd be willing to do that. I think everybody should be willing to do that, considering the salary cap is going up. Then they have $27 million to kind of spend. Mikheyev, Week said that he might get like 5 years at 5.5. Stay away from that. Stay away from that shit. But yeah, we can't have Burakovsky and Ryan Green as Bedard's top line wingers. Let's go over to the trade board. McTavish, I don't think makes sense for Chicago. I've seen that mocked. They have Nazar. They have Frundell. Nyes obviously makes sense. DeBrusk I wouldn't hate. Now, obviously not like he can't be like the one thing that you do, but you have the salary cap at $5.5 million. I don't think the Canucks are going to be asking for much. You can be a consistent 20 and 20 guy to just play with Nazar, to just play with Bedard. Who else? I would love, like, where is he? McCann. I would love, like, I don't know. We're going to get to Seattle and their kind of inability to do anything. I would love Jared McCann next to Connor Bedard. Oh, I would love that. but I don't think Seattle would do that. I would toss the Oilers pick that they have for next year, as well as a solid prospect to go out and get a Jared McCann. I don't know why I'm circling Ryan O'Reilly. Matt Barzal, we'll take the 4th overall pick for Matt Barzal. Brian Rust, if the price is right, I wouldn't hate that as kind of just that solid stopgap 2 to 3 year winger for Chicago's top 6. Same with Raquel. Robertson's not going to happen. I hate to burst your bubble. We'll get to Dallas, but I just don't really see that happening. What else? Free agency. Let's go over to the RFA or the UFAs. I wouldn't hate Tuck. I do think it would be rushing it a little bit. Anthony Mantha could be interesting if it's like a 3-year deal and it's not really eating into when you think that this team is going to be contending at a high level. Tarasenko on a 1-year deal just as a goal scorer within the middle 6. Bobby McMahon, I mean, he'd be an upgrade over Burakovsky. Bobby McMahon could be a decent fit in Chicago just as an object upgrade. Mason Marchment, I think Columbus is probably going to re-sign him, but again, they're all upgrades compared to what they've recently been throwing Connor Bedard with. Brock Besser, you're saying Besser? I don't love that contract, man. Besser this year, whoops, that's way too. Besser was not that good this year. Oh, he actually finished with 22 goals, 26 assists, 48 points. So, I mean, but still, Besser's what, like, going to be 29? No, he's going to be 30 next season and still has another 6 years and $7 million. So, I don't hate it. If it's for free, I would do it, but I don't know. I'd probably stay away. Next team up. But Chicago needs to do something. There's plenty of options, and it's not going to be that hard to upgrade over Burakovsky and Green as top-line wingers. Colorado got some salary cap space after the Ross Colton dump. They still have Jack Drury. That's probably going to be a 2 to 3 year deal at like $2.53 million. He's a solid 4th-line center. Not really much beyond that. Brett Burns, I mean, if there's any Colorado fans in here, Kane comes home. I don't think that they're gonna like Kane coming back to Chicago. That would be wild, but I think when they traded him, they said we're fully moving on to Bedard. We don't need, not saying Kane's a distraction, but that kind of would be a distraction for Connor Bedard and co. Brett Burns, maybe a 1-year deal at $1 million again. He was solid. Brett Kulak, they have $6 million. They could probably re-sign him now. I think that he's probably a guy that's going to get overpaid on the open market, like a 4-year deal at $4 million. Blankenberg was solid for them, but they didn't really trust him come playoff time, I think. Where at Colorado, they're kind of just going to have to run it back basically with the exact same team. They don't have any assets to make like really any trades happen, which suck. Also, if you can't tell, I'm doing this alphabetically. So anybody watching on replay, but yeah, they're kind of stuck. Not stuck. Again, they made the Western Conference Finals, won the President's Trophy, but they're just not going to have the flexibility. You can maybe, like in terms of dumping guys, do you maybe move off like an Etrushkin? Do you maybe move off a Nick Waugh? Those are your really only options. Again, everybody else has trade protection for the most part. Josh Manson, do you think, okay, Brett Kulak can be our second pair left-handed defenseman or right? No, sorry, Kulak. I forgot Manson's a righty. But no, I guess he plays the left side considering they have Malinsky and Makar. Those are just some of their options that they could have in terms of next season. But mostly he's going to be running back the same team. That is a very good team. Columbus, $32 million of salary cap space. They obviously have Fantilli, Marchment, Boone Jenner as free agents, Cole Sillinger. Cole Sillinger's not going to cost that much. That's probably like a 3-year deal at $3 million. Fantilli, I think you go long-term, 8 years, $9 million. He hasn't proved enough. Maybe even like 8.5. He's going to get a bag just because he is 21 years old. But I think that you lock him up instead of just bridging him. It's not like you're in this contention window where you need to save money. If Adam Fantilli doesn't pan out, doesn't turn into at least a $9 million guy, this entire rebuild blows up. So I think you got to bet on him and try to get some surplus savings if he continues to develop. Boone Jenner's gone. We can admit that. Someone's going to pay him some kind of like nearly 6x6, considering Coyle, although the better player, didn't hit unrestricted free agency and got that money. Marchment, I think is going to get a lot. I think it's probably going to be around the 6x6, considering he's a 6'5" winger that was very good for them. I would maybe stay away per se. Matejchuk extension. That's a good point. I think Matejchuk extension. I think I'm very high on Denton Matejchuk. He had like 30 points on the second power play this year. Not solely on the second power play, but I'm just saying he wasn't on the top power play. I would go Matejchuk 6 to 8 years at like $6 million. I mean, they're already paying fucking Severson 6.25 and Provorov 8.5. They can't fuck around. Again, Matejchuk and Fantilli, if they want to eventually reach what they think that they could be, they need both of those guys to be high impact guys. Take a chance. Bet on those guys. Good Branson, let walk. And Jet Greaves, similarly, like, yes, next season you don't love the idea of paying Jet Greaves and Elvis Merzlikins like a combined $11 million, but Jet Greaves has been so good at every single level. We can go over to, here's the Raddysh, but we'll go over to the Greaves. Look at the Minions ad. Y'all watching Minions, the new Minions that's coming out? Where's Greaves? Where the hell is Greaves? He's been so good. I always say this. He's been so good at every single level. Oh, this is a disaster. Like, look at this, man. 910, 920, 908, 938. Like, he locked this guy up. Don't fuck around. But I'm getting back to the other parts of it. Yeah, they need to lock up Greaves. They need to lock up Matejchuk. They need to lock up Fantilli. I maybe don't love this core, but this is the core that you have. I know that it wasn't solely him who built it, Waddell. But yeah, this is the team, especially with Werenski, unrestricted free agency coming up. You need to lock this team up. You need to get aggressive in terms of trade targets. Let's go over to the trade board. Whoops. Who could they target? I mean, obviously Larkin would have been like a really nice fit, but apparently he doesn't want to go there. Again, I think Jared McCann would be a great fit in Columbus. I just really like Jared McCann. Kyrou, I think, would be awesome there. I don't know if St. Louis is obviously going to trade him. If you're Columbus, would you take a chance on like an Elias Pettersson? Get risky like that? But yeah, they need to spend this summer. They need to make some kind of big move. Jason Robertson, again, not going to happen, but I would be super aggressive if I was Columbus. Let Jenner walk. If they let Jenner walk, they should be looking at around like $10 to $15 million of salary cap space and go for Alex Tuch. Maybe overpay Alex Tuch. I don't love that, but again, for a Columbus team that needs to convince Werenski in the near future, I think going for it is the move with Columbus, even though I don't think that this team is like that close to contention. It's Columbus. You have something brewing. You need to build on top of that before you get to a situation where you don't, and then Zach Werenski next summer says, actually, check, please. I'm going to want out. See ya. Next up, Dallas. This is just not loading. $10 million, 10.1. They locked up Harley, but obviously they still have Mr. Jason Robertson as a restricted free. They only have $10 million. I don't know why I thought that they had more. All right, what I would do personally is just tell Tyler Seguin, like, you're getting traded. I know that he has a no trade clause, but I'd be like, you can go get traded to like a half decent team. We might have to eat some money, but your ass is gone at $9.85 million and constantly hurt. How can they shed money? Ilya Lyubushkin, gone. See you later. 3.25. He's not as bad as Matt Dumba, but we can just plug Nils Lundqvist there, right? Shrimp says, Werenski for Brandt Clark and Loff. I wouldn't hate that. Colin would do something like that. But, okay, so we moved off Lyubushkin. We're up to like $14 million. But yeah, still, all they're going to really be able to do is re-sign Jason Robertson. That's why I think Maverick Bourque is a serious offer sheet candidate, man. This is just going to have to be retain the team. After this season, I always say with Dallas, after this season, once Seguin, like this is their final year kind of a cap crunch, because then Sagan's like $10 million come off the books. You have, Heiskanen only has 2 years left after next season, but still, you have Lindell for 3 more years. You have Heiskanen, you have Harley, who maybe you don't love that deal right now, but I still think it's going to be fine. Hintz still has a lot more years left. Johnston still has 3 years. Rantanen has a bunch of years. So it's going to get ugly this summer in terms of retaining guys. But after that, this summer's going to be tough. That's what I'm trying to say. Clutch on to your pearls. You might have to dump even like these guys, which I think are fantastic bottom sixers, really good bottom sixers. Not Hertzkovian. to make this work, you can't let Jason Robertson walk out that door because he was literally better than like Mikko Rantanen this season. He was their best player. Let me know what you think about the Dallas Stars and what they could do to make this. Again, I thought they had like 13, and on top of once they traded Lyubushkin, they'd be in a better situation. This is kind of a fucking disaster. This is worse than I thought it was. Yeah, Lyubushkin, pack your bags, bro. You're getting shipped out. Someone will take him on for free. Yeah, Sagan could be a good $7 million player somewhere else. It's just on Dallas when, again, you're battling to re-sign Jason Robertson and Maverick Bourque. We can get rid of you. We're good now. LeBron, we're good now. Jamie Benn's gone. Maybe if he signs like $750,000. But we need to move on from the Jamie Benn tenure. All right, Detroit, 27 mil. And who's their notable? They have Edvinsson, right? Okay, but they got the Brinkett the following year. Jeez. Okay, so they actually have solid money to spend. Cam Talbot, I mean, you're going to have either, if you have the guy in the AHL that was so good, Pastava or Augustine as your backup next year, or Kosa. So you're fine in terms of goalie. Edvinsson, again, similarly, 2 Siders, 2 Raymond. I think you have to go long-term. I don't think it'll cost you as much. I think 8 years, $7.5 million. I'm more than fine doing, even though he didn't have the best sophomore season, full season. I still think I'm willing to bet on a 6'5" left-handed defenseman that moves the way that he does on being a good top 4 defenseman for the foreseeable future. Yeah, they're going to have some money to play with. And especially the problem is, of course, Dylan Larkin wants out. But if Larkin wants out, they're going to have like $25 million. Now, do I trust Steve Yzerman in free agency to go out and spend this wisely? No, he's probably going to bring back Patrick Kane, bring Anthony Mantha home. No, I'm kidding. But they could be a prime Alex Tuck candidate. I could see him going for like Boone Jenner as center help. They're fucked. Low-key. They have this salary cap, but they need the one thing that every fucking team in the league needs, of course, that being centers. Where, again, I could maybe, the Heischer for Larkin deal, they would have to add on top of that. I suggested Braden Point. That's obviously not going to happen in reality. They could maybe be, I think that they should definitely be a team that's interested in a William Karlsson. Obviously, he's not going to be a Dylan Larkin replacement. But if for Larkin, you can get a really good young winger or defenseman, and then you just say, we're plugging in William Karlsson, we're going for Tomas Hertl for cheap. They need to take advantage of teams that are very cap tight. It'd be hilarious if he took a swing, and really bold if he took a swing on Pettersson after losing Dylan Larkin. But yeah, I think the Larkin return is going to be something like a young player in picks on top of it. I don't think it's just going to be a futures package. And then you need to take some shots. McTavish, maybe. Again, that could be the trade package for Larkin. They're going to lose a Larkin deal. I don't know. A 3-teamer where you get Trocheck. They shouldn't bring in Ryan O'Reilly. That'd be malpractice with 1 year at 35 years old. But yeah, it's really just going to be the Larkin deal that sets the entire table for the offseason. Depending on what they get in the Larkin package, then you pivot. If you get a center, then you just go wing. Then you get another defenseman. Problem is, of course, they have fucking Chirot and they have Falk locked up. Oh, this is bad, Wings fans. This is really, really bad. This is bad. What do you? I know I got some Wings fans watching right now. What is your take on this offseason? What's your copium for this offseason? I just see this, and I just turn red. $10.3 million to Chirot Falk next season. Oh, other extensions. The Brinkett. Again, the Brinkett, you got to re-sign him, assuming you're trying to stay competitive. That's going to be an 8-year deal. That's going to be like Adrian Kempe money, most likely. Karlsson re-signing in Vegas. Again, Karlsson, it's tough because, yeah, he has 1 year left at 5.9. He is very injury prone, and they just got to re-sign Dorofeev. As we're going to get to Vegas, but they're very cap tight. Tomas Hertl has a 3-team trade list. He can only get traded to 3 teams. Meanwhile, Karlsson has no trade protection. That's why I'm floating Karlsson out there. But yeah, this is bad for Detroit. We're gonna move on. This is too sad. Edmonton up next. Mr. Mike Babcock's squad. $14.5 million. They do have some notable unrestricted free agents, like Mr. Sperry Kapanen. He made himself a lot of money this year in the playoffs, even though it was 6 games. Jason Dickinson, again, center, going to get a lot if they want to re-sign him. Roslovic, maybe they re-sign him, but that would be cheap. And then Connor Murphy, again, unrestricted free agents. Also, Connor Ingram in net. He won't be the league minimum if he re-signs in Edmonton, where they're also just on retain duty unless they can somehow move off Darnell Nurse. But again, I think even when trading Darnell Nurse, they might eat some of that money. They might get a bad contract that has a lower AAV and only has like 2 to 3 years left, where they're not just going to clear out that $9.25 million entirely. So they're not going to have much to improve this team that drastically. They don't have that much in terms of draft picks, obviously. They got their firsts in 2028, 2029. I think you bring back Connor Murray. He should be the number one priority. He should be the number one priority in terms of, look at that, Angel Reese fanatic suggestions. Big time Angel Reese fan. I think Connor Murphy is the one priority in terms of unrestricted free agency because, again, him and Wallman is a really good second pair. Dickinson, if it's like 4 years, 4, I think I would just swallow and do it. He's a low-end third-line center and has a nice defensive penalty kill aspect to his game. Kapanen might have priced himself out. In terms of unrestricted free agency, guys that we can maybe find for cheap, you bring back Kailer Yamamoto. Yeah, they're just going to have to find some nice underrated pieces in this kind of crap bunch. Jeff Skinner, bring him back. They're going to have to get creative, but I don't really trust Stan Bowman to identify this kind of talent. That has been his bane of his existence. He has overpaid for depth, at least recently, where I don't have that much faith in the Edmonton Oilers. But yeah, 14. If they trade Nurse, that definitely makes it interesting, and they could bring in some impact guys. You're just hoping that Savoy and Howard really help that forward core, and you can bring in a very good third pair defenseman if you get rid of Nurse. Next up, Florida. They, of course, have the 9th overall selection in this year's draft. Fix the cap screen. We can't see. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I fuck up changing over tabs. But Florida, yeah, they're in a pretty decent, what do they have? $15 million. They're in a solid cap space situation. They're going to let AJ Greer walk. They're going to let some of the depth guys. Sam Miskevich should, assuming nobody offer sheets him, which I think someone should offer sheet Mackie Sam Miskevich. They're going to probably re-sign him 2 years, $2.5, $3 million. Again, he's not at a UFA until much later on. Where, yeah, they actually have some. Last year was really the tight cap crunch. They're going to do something with Bobrovsky. I think a deal could make some sense with Sam Miskevich in the 9th overall pick for a Connor Hellebuyck. It's not going to be Lundell for the 9th overall pick. It could be Lundell straight up for Hellebuyck, but it's not going to be both of those assets like you see Winnipeg Jets fans scream about all the time. I think they should be in for Gustafsson as well as a potential. Whoops, that's the wrong tab. Binnington, stay far away from. They might trade Evan Rodriguez, obviously, to open up $3 million, but they're not that cap tight. Do you maybe take a chance on 1 year of Darcy Kemper? I wouldn't hate that compared to giving Bobrovsky apparently the 6x6 that he's looking for. Montembeault, you're not trusting him to be your number one. Do you maybe bring in Kosa, not as the guy for this season, but maybe down the line you like him? But yeah, I think if Bobrovsky's salary asks so much, you got to do something in that. Bring in Stuart Skinner. This is the restricted free agents. Let's go over to the goalies. There's not much in terms of goalies. Oh, this is blocked off. But Freddie Anderson, Stuart Skinner, Petr Mrazek. Not much. Connor Ingram, I think, could be a good buy low. Obviously, you can't solely trust him to be your guy. But there's some options. They're going to get creative. They're not going to get held hostage by a 37-year-old Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah, but yeah, Adonis says, from a Cats fan, I think Bob is gone. Yeah, it's just like, apparently the report is 5 or 6 years, $40 million. Like, who do you think you are? You had an 870 this year. Or no, like an 880. Shrimp, what are we doing in the chat with that? That is absurd for you to send. Yeah, Bobrovsky just too much. Greer, too much. Florida, like Carolina, knows that once they get their value on guys on dirt cheap deals, and then once you need that next contract, see you later, man. Thank you for your service. We're going to move on to the Los Angeles Kings. Ken Holland's Kings, $18 million. They have nobody really extension. Oh, Brant Clark's a restricted free agent. I forgot about that. They should go long-term with Brant Clark, considering he is the future, especially the future once this Doughty deal is done. They should go an 8-year deal at 7.5, 7.75. I think that'd be awesome. I don't trust him to do that. Scott Lawton, I would welcome back on like a 4-year deal at $4 million. I know that sounds a little bit gross, but he was a really good fit there. In net, you just kind of ride this year out. It's a solid tandem, but it's a pretty old tandem. In terms of moves to maybe improve this team, they should get creative. Oh, fuck, I keep on going to the wrong one and go back to my notes. In terms of swings that they could take, that is not Darnell Nurse. Matthew Nyes for Brant Clark maybe could be interesting. Some kind of swap like that. Actually, they shouldn't do that. What am I talking about? I like Brant Clark more. That might be a hot take. But that could make some sense. Who else? Yeah, the problem is they need a serious difference maker. McCann would be interesting, but he's not going to seriously move the needle. He's kind of just a worse version of Adrian Kempe. Vince Dunn. Again, I don't know if Vince Dunn's actually going to be available, but I think he could be very good as an offensive defenseman in LA. Matt Barzal, obviously, if he was available. Brant Clark for Matt Barzal, who says no. Let's get it done. Do they take a chance on like a Pettersson? I wouldn't hate that. Would you hate that? Let me know. Like they're desperate. It could blow up in their face. They're like a worse Toronto Maple Leafs where this current core is like all over the place. They don't have some kind of bright future in the next couple of years. They got to take swings. I wouldn't hate McTavish. He would not get traded across the street, basically. But yeah, they need reclamation projects. They need Kent Johnson types. They need Devon Levi's. That meant to be Levi. They need to take some swings. They need to go down swinging. They should have never hired Ken Holland to begin with, but they need to get aggressive. What do we say in the chat? Second and third teams. It's my second and third teams that I root for. Probably the Senators and either the Panthers or the Devils. I remove. Oh no, we just did LA. Minnesota. Cap crunch for sure. $9.4 million of salary cap space. Of course, they handed Michael McCarron a 6-year, $3.33 million deal with the no movement clause. The first 3 years. Don't exactly love that. Yeah, they still got Foligno. Foligno may be back on a league minimum. It would have to be a league minimum. Johansson's going to the SHL. Tarasenko, I'd probably let him walk. I know he was good, but I feel like Tarasenko is a guy that has one really good year, one really bad year, one really good year, one really bad year, where if he was making $4.5 million. If he wants north of $4 million, like I think you say, we got the value out of you. We're good. Matt Zuccarello, people were pissed when I said Zuccarello is only going to be like 2 years, $3.5 million. I think that's going to be the case. When looking at this guy, even when he had like 58 points in 65 games like 2 or 3 years ago, he signed like a 2-year deal at $4 million. Like he likes Minnesota. He likes playing with Kaprizov, Fabry, Walk, Brink, 1 to 2 year deal, or two-year deal, 2.5, something like that. They're just going to have to retain this team. Yes, you would want to go for a Dylan Larkin. A Dylan Larkin deal, I think, might have to. Eriksson Ek, he has a no movement clause, but he has a 15-team. Is that a mistake? Is a 10-team no trade clause? I think a Dylan Larkin deal, more than I think about it, I think it would have to be like Eriksson Ek plus. Because I don't think Detroit would be like, we'll take a flyer on Urov. We'll take a bunch of unknowns, Urov and Schrammel, in a first-round pick. Like, that's just mystery boxes. I know they don't have the most leverage, but I think they're going to need some kind of legit proven NHLer. Yeah, I think, that's a great suggestion by Islanders. JJ, I think William Karlsson is a guy that they should take a flyer on. Let's go over to the trade board. Like William Karlsson, again, not saying he could be a number one center, but him and Eriksson Ek as your 1-2, that's at least respectable. You look at it, other spots like Ryan O'Reilly, I wouldn't hate if they brought in. Hopefully it would only cost like a first-round pick. Matt Barzell, I don't know what that deal would look like. Pedersen would be like they don't have the salary cap to do that. But maybe in a year or two, they're like, fuck it. We're going for him. Heischer deal, no. Yeah, they're Larkin, Trocheck. Trocheck, I think, does maybe make more sense considering he's not a serious difference maker, but it makes more sense considering you could probably get away with the Urov, Schrammel first kind of package. Not all three, but maybe two of those three. But yeah, Larkin, I don't think is as feasible as maybe some people are saying, just because it's not like Detroit is entering and other eyes are playing. But yeah, feel free to let me know what you guys think about these teams and what they should do. Montreal, I think we're about halfway there. Montreal has 10.9. I've been on the record of saying Montreal shouldn't do much this summer, to which people push back. Kirby Dach, 3-4 years at $4 million. He earned himself a solid contract this year in the playoffs. You definitely got to be weary of the injury concerns. Patrick Laine, we didn't talk about him for other teams, but Patrick Laine as like a potential just bottom six, top power play kind of guy. I do like for some teams. And he's only going to cost like $1.5 million and then bonuses on top of it. Dobish, I think he gets some kind of extension done. What would a Dobish extension look like? Would you go with a 5x5 today? I mean, it's only one season. Goalies are weird. He was good in the AHL. Do you think a 5x5 gets it done? I think you try to get that done this summer. I know goalies are risky, but you have the salary cap. Why not try to sign another really good? And then if you sign him this summer for cheap, if he does pop off, then you maybe don't feel the need with him. You can run him and Fowler as a tandem for the foreseeable future. If you let this year play out and then you have to give Dobish like $6, $7, $8 million, like then it gets dicey with like, holy shit, can you commit once Fowler pops out? Can you give Fowler a serious contract? Wow. Okay. Shrimp saying he's got Elvis Merzlikins written all over him. Damn. Again, a 5x5, that's going to be like backup money in like 2 to 3 years where I wouldn't be that worried about it. Alex Carrier extension, 4 years, $5 million. He's definitely earned himself a payday in some term. I'd be willing to do that, especially considering they were willing to do that with fucking Mike Matheson. But yeah, in terms of trade targets, let's go over to the trade board for the Montreal Canadiens. Hey, like Larkin, I don't think he's going to go to Canada. I just don't think that like they should I wouldn't hate it, but it would be rushing it a little bit. Trocheck's too old. Ryan O'Reilly's too old. Matt Barzell, if he's available. Again, I'm not sure Matt Barzell. I don't hate Matt Barzell. I like Matt Barzell maybe a little bit more on the wing. I don't think that he's like a true second line center. I think he's talented wise, but he might be more of a winger. Pedersen, stay away. You're not desperate enough to take that big of a swing. I think we can agree on that. McTavish is so bad defensively. I've seen Canadiens fans try to pitch themselves on Mason McTavish. No, man, stay away. Bad defensively, skating concerns up the wazoo. I do like Carlson as kind of a stopgap. How's the Duolingo going? It has slowed down. I'm still going to do it, obviously, but I need to ramp it back up now that we're in off-season mode. Heischer, if they're willing for some kind of Hage package, it could make sense. You go over to the free agents. Restricted free agents. I would love if they threw an offer sheet at Connor Bedard, Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson. Probably not going to happen. Unrestricted free agents. There's really nothing in terms of centers. That's what makes this tough. Like you going after Boone Jenner if you're Kent Hughes? I tend to not think so. So I think that they should stay put unless the price is right. Now that Robert Thomas is like, he's not even on my trade board, I don't think that's happening. So I would just chill. Next summer is maybe the summer you get crazy. Because they have so much salary cap savings that really next summer it's going to be so apparent and they're going to have to spend money. We're going to move on, though, to the Nashville Predators. We probably won't spend a lot of time on $23 million. And I think they don't really have like any free agents. Yeah, they got Eric Halla. Let Eric. Honestly, maybe I would do a 1-year deal at like $5 million and then just trade. They should have traded him at this year's deadline. But maybe you get a mulligan on that. Justin Barron. the legend that got the Montreal Canadiens, Alex Carrier. Goaltender tandem is set. This is similar to Calgary. I don't know what exactly McFarland is planning in Nashville. It scares me a little bit, but if I was Nashville, give me your bad contracts. Give me your bad contracts. I have the salary cap to take them on. I can take them on for assets. I can flip them at future deadlines. They should be thinking about trading Ryan O'Reilly. Steven Stamkos doesn't want to leave yet. Maybe next season he will. The Ross Colton deal, again, I don't hate just because he only has a year left at $4 million, although they gave up assets to take on Ross Colton. I think that this should be thinking retool. I don't know what McFarland is going to do, but I think that they should be thinking retool. What are you guys saying? Yeah, Nico Hischier probably not leaving. I agree on that. But yeah, Nashville, don't get ridiculous. Knowing Nashville, they're probably going to be in on like Bobby McMahon. They're going to sign some kind of 5-year deal. It's $7 million. Barry Trotz is out of there, but McFarland scares me because I was never a McFarland fan in Colorado. He got a bunch of praise. Their fans should be elated that that Colorado fans should be elated that he's no longer the general manager. Evangelista should get some kind of extension. It was so dumb when it came out. Trotz was like, we offered him $1.2 million. Get this guy on like a 7x6 or something like that. He is an awesome playmaker. I would definitely extend him. Moving on to the Devils. Anderson, a 10x7. That would be so them. Oh, Roman Yoshi's getting up there in age. We need another top pair offensive defenseman. Oh my God. My voice is going to be gone by the end of this. Thank you to everybody that's watching. Thank you to everybody that is commenting in the live chat. Feel free to spam away what you think that these teams should be doing. This is fun. Laid back Friday show. New Jersey Devils, 10.9 milli. They, of course, have the pending Nico Hischier extension. Kevin Weeks said $11 to $13 million. If it's 11, I think you do it. If it's 12.5 north, I think you are a little bit suspect. And Dawson Mercer, I think you let this year play out. He's been far too inconsistent. Sneaky Kosa team for the Nashville Predators. Ooh. Or are you talking about New Jersey? I like Kosa for Nashville. I think that's an interesting idea. Because especially now, Trotz would never go out and acquire a young goalie because then that would be admitting that he completely fucked up the Askarov situation with Soros. But McFarland should buy low. Yeah, again, they should be getting some of these young... Nashville should go after a Kent Johnson. Some of these distressed, either bad contracts or young guys that maybe could turn it around. Lucas with the best live chat question yet. Mike, would you ever date a furry? No, I don't think I would. Thank you for asking the real important questions. I really appreciate it. That's what I mean when getting active in the live chat. It's Fun Friday. Send your questions away. It could be about anything. The New Jersey Devils. Okay, back on topic. They got a lot of pending unrestricted free agents next season, that being. Cody Glass. I think he could actually get a little bit of a contract extension this summer, like a 4x4, maybe even higher. He was really good for them this season. Cotter, you re-sign. Damn, they really don't have, oh my God, they only have $10 million, and they have guys that are going to need, Gritsuk is going to need like 3x3. But obviously they're going to think about, apparently Meta likes Dougie Hamilton. The problem is, like, how are they going to move out this money with all these fucking no trade clauses? I guess you could move out Brendan Dillon. He has a 10-team no trade, but again, Markstrom, a 20-team no trade list. Sonny Meta is like, he walked in. You ever see like the Goofy meme where it's like, damn, you live like this? That's what Sonny Meta is walking into this fucking situation. Siplikov, you might have to buy out or like trade to someone else. Bjork's like, they really don't have any flexibility. Timo Meier, full no move. Again, $11 million with Cotter, valuable bottom sixer. He's going to have to get paid. Gritsuk. Damn. They kind of fucked. But I trust Sonny Meta. He just needs to get creative in free agency and try to sign some of these underrated guys. My Islanders, maybe the most horrifying. I saw Gritsuk getting a long-term deal. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But again, then they have like no money to actually improve the team. That's why I don't hate letting Husher go just because it's like we can't improve the team for the next 2 off seasons if Husher's getting this big raise. What are you guys saying? Fitz is a demon. Yeah, Fitz is bad, man. Fitz is bad. Split screen ad. Could see Dawson Mercer. Yeah, Mercer is one of the guys that I could see him move off of and just be like, he hasn't hit. We need to clear that money and we need to get some kind of assets. If Darsh can't take, if Darsh didn't take on Palat's fucking contract, that would have been the difference between Soplakov and Palat is like 3 points. So they would have had like $6 million, $6.5 million to work with. But fucking Darsh had to be like, okay, I'll take Palat for a third. And meanwhile, now we have $10.6 million because this guy's making 6.5. This guy's making 6. Fucking disaster. And they have trade protection. My God. Holmstrom should get a 7-year deal at $5.5 million this summer. If he does that July 1st, he will start to win me back. I am very high on Simon Holmstrom. I think every Islanders fan is. As that two-way force, really good shot, penalty killer, shorthanded demon, him and Pajot. I would go long for Holmstrom. He fucked it up his first offseason by giving him only a 2-year deal at 3.65. I would go long-term. That's my first order. I would go Emil Heineman. I would also go, not like a crazy contract. He also, I wanted him to go Heineman. I have the receipts. I wanted him to go Heineman like a 4-year deal at 2.25. He went 2 years, 1.1. This guy pisses me off, man. But yeah, Heineman, I would like a 5-year deal at 3.25 if he's down for that. Some security. Romanov, that's his fucking, that's the one deal that he did give out, the long-term deal. I'm sorry, I'm just going to bitch for the next whatever. Varley is, I don't know if he's going to be healthy. Like, you still have to bring in some kind of goalie on a 2-way deal that you think could play NHL games. In terms of trades, Barzell's dangled out there. He has a 22-team no-trade list. I don't think that they're going to trade him. If he did, it would be for like immediate players. It wouldn't be for like a futures package. I think Adam Pelech should get traded. I love Adam Pelech, but it was his first season playing 82 games. I think it was just his first season ever, definitely in the last like 5 years, and he was really good defensively. You've seen my ideal Islanders offseason. It should be trading Pelech. It should have been going out and getting like a Mike Kesselring. I'd bring back Tony D. In terms of, again, they don't have, Anders Lee's going to walk for nothing, which is depressing. In terms of like trade targets that I want them to be in on, Shane Wright, I wouldn't hate, but they would want like Matt Barzal in some kind of huge package. I'm trying to see. I just don't have that much faith for the Islanders this summer, unfortunately. They still have a very good future in terms of like the prospects. I just don't trust him. Simone Nemitz, I don't think that's going to happen in division. I don't think that's going to be one of Meta's first moves. Zellweger's a lefty, which is tough. I would want to take a shot on him, but we have so many left-handed defensemen. Obviously, in the draft, I want them to take Ryan Lynn. Kent Johnson, I don't even know if I would take a flyer on. They just don't have that much flexibility. DeBrusk, I wouldn't hate. DeBrusk, I think, would be solid, like alongside like a Cal Ritchie. That's maybe one move where I'd be like, okay, I see the vision on that. 4 to 5 years left at like $5.5 million. I'd be down for that. But yeah, obviously they're not. I don't want McTavish. They're not going to be in on Larkin or Trocheck. It's weird. Like, I kind of don't want it. I don't want him to do anything. Maybe I just don't trust him. But yeah, I just see these free agents and I'm like, someone's got to overpay for them. And based on my GM's recent moves, like the Braden Shen deal, it might be my team holding the bag. DeBrusk, I don't like DeBrusk. Spence, yeah. Islanders JJ says it. Spence makes all of the sense in the world. The problem is Spence isn't going to go for draft picks like he did last year, the 3rd and the 6th round pick. I think Ottawa, who we're going to get to shortly, is going to want some kind of goal scoring forward. So maybe it's some kind of, maybe it's some kind of 3-team deal where DeBrusk goes to Ottawa, Spence goes to the Islanders, Canucks just get a bunch of futures. Did I just cook there? Did I just cook with that? I think that could make sense. Darnell Nurse, thankfully, King of the North, thankfully, we have enough lefties. If Darnell Nurse was a righty, yeah, I'd be a little bit scared about him going to the New York Islanders. What else are you guys saying? Yeah, mid prospects, no game breaking forward, which is why I say at 13th overall, if we're not getting Ryan Lynn, I want them to take a swing. I want them to move up and get like a Wyatt Cullen. Devin Levi back up for Sorokin. The problem is with the young goalie, we do have Dmitry Gamzing in the system, where I don't love like bringing in a young goalie because I'm so high on him. He's been awesome in the KHL. What would the Islanders pay for DeBrusk? I think it would really only cost like a 3rd round pick. Maybe a 2nd. Because like Vancouver's just like, get it off our books. Like we're good. And he's only a 20 and 20 guy. B-Raf, Mike, it's your favorite Islanders fan. Yo, what's going on, man? Ruck Twins to Long Island. The only problem with that is we don't have, because fun fact, this is from the Josh Bailey trade back at the 2023 draft, where they dumped Josh Bailey and gave up a 2026 second. Ottawa probably doesn't fancy the problem is like there's just not, if Ottawa wants, which we're going to talk about soon, if Ottawa wants goal scoring wingers, like, yeah, McCann is perfect. Is he actually available? I don't know. DeBrusk is actually available. Skinner, we welcome you in Ottawa. Yeah, the Palat extension is going to make me stop being a fan. They might buy out Palat, which people are, oh, the buyout's so manageable. Why did you trade for him in the fucking first place? We're already having buyout conversations. We're going to move on to the Rangers. I need to feel good about myself by looking at the Rangers situation. All right, Will Cooley. Maybe an extension this summer. Actually, he had a little bit of not a down year, but based on what we saw in 2025, you were expecting more, where I think maybe you let this season play out. Connor Sheary, Mike Sullivan's favorite player of all time. Bring him back. Matt Rempe, 7x7. Sounds good. Braden Schneider, similarly to Keandre Miller, I just don't think that he's ever going to pan out in New York. I just think that they're horrible at the current regime is just so bad at development, or I wouldn't hate moving off him. And he hasn't even showed the flashes that Keandre Miller showed, if we're going to be honest, if we're going to be so fucking for real. Where, yeah, I think you move off Braden Schneider. How much money do they have? They have 26 mil, so they have a lot of salary cap flexibility. Trocheck is obviously, he only has, 10-team no-trade list. I think you move off Trocheck, you go for that futures package, you go with a very young NHLer and like a first-round pick or just prospects. In terms of guys that they should be targeting in trades, McTavish, I don't really like, especially with their development staff. I don't think he'd work there. They have Garand, where I don't think a young goalie makes a ton of sense. I would take a flyer on Shane Wright if the cost is like a 2nd-round pick. Kent Johnson is someone I would go for. Mason Lohrei, why not? They just need to be thinking young. They need to be thinking retool. Apparently Gavrikov might want some kind of want out of New York. That would really throw a wrench in things. In terms of free agency, yeah, again, a lot of these are just gross. They're not going to be in on a Rasmus Anderson, thankfully. Patrick Kane back on Broadway. Showtime back on Broadway. They should be all thinking about offer sheets for some guys. I could see them going after Mario Ferraro. That'd be such a Rangers pickup. Tolvanen, the Seattle Kraken 27-year-old. I wouldn't hate that. In terms of restricted free agents, not saying they're going to offer sheet guys, but I think, again, someone like, they should be all in on like Bork, Samoskevich, because they have the salary cap, because they're trying to get younger. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be that active of an offseason. They should be thinking about a Laba extension, 4 years, $2.5 million, get them on one of those dirt cheap bottom 6 extensions. Perreault, Ranger fans, there's got to be Ranger fans in here. Do you think Perreault, what would you give Perreault right now on a 6 to 8 year deal? 6 years, $6 million? I know it's a small sample size, but does Perreault even say yes to that? Does he just play the year out? But that's where you start betting on your younger players to be like, we believe in Perreault. We're going to try to get, it actually did work out for Laugh. It didn't work out in the way that we thought it would after that 2024 season, but his 7.4 is looking pretty manageable. I think Cooley's a different story where like it was a kind of a pretty disappointing season this year for him. But for Perreault, I think that's a guy that you lock up now. I think that's your top. You might come away. You might not do much, but if you get Perreault on some kind of long-term deal, you're looking at yourself being like, we're thinking to the future. We're in a good salary cap space situation, especially with some of these contracts still on the books for another 4 years, but they need to be thinking younger. They need to be thinking about the future. this offseason. We're moving over to Ottawa, who badly need some scoring in the top 6. They have the 32nd overall pick, but they can't trade it. Also for New York, obviously at 5th overall, just go with the best player available. Ottawa. Yeah, they're in a pretty solid spot cap-wise this summer. They don't have a ton of money at $16 million. But when you look at it, of course, Stützle's locked up. Kachuk still has 2 years. Pinto, maybe don't love that, but it's okay. Cousins' deal is now looking very good. Batherson is a guy where maybe do you sell for a guy that has more term? You might not immediately get the better player, but then when Batherson signs his 8-year deal at $8.59 million, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we dodged a bullet with that. We dodged a bullet. Other guys, no real, just Claude Giroux back on a 1-year deal at $1 million with bonuses. Lars Eller, sure, same thing. Jordan Spence, again, I'm high on the player. I understand maybe if they're thinking like we have more so, not even undersized guys. They're just thinking that they have more offensive guys, I guess, within the top 4 with Sanderson. Sanderson's so good defensively, though. I don't know. And they think Yakimchuk coming up, they need to make room for him. I think that they should just re-sign him on some kind of 5x5, but I can maybe see it. Oh, shit. My bad. My bad on the screen. My bad. I didn't shift that over. Yeah, Line. Ooh, Line. Line could make sense here. She 9th overall in Sam Miscavige for Brady. I don't think that Ottawa should do that. That would be good for Florida though. Fogle, another $3.5 million. Yeah, in free agency, do they have, let's see what the options are looking like in free agency for them. They'd have to clear out a lot of money for Tuck. I wouldn't hate that though. I like him more than Batherson. I'd rather give him 9.5 than Batherson probably. Bobby McMahon is intriguing. Solid goal scoring, solid speed. Tarasenko, run it back. Tolvanen could be a nice buy low, unrestricted free agency snag. Not a serious difference maker, though. In terms of the trade board, obviously McCann is the guy that everybody in Ottawa has circled, and rightfully so. I still don't like DeBrusk. He's not going to be a serious difference maker, but he can really help. I think he could really help in their middle 6. They're obviously not getting like these top guys. They're fine down the middle of the ice. Yeah, just some kind of top 6 winger, second line winger that can maybe get you 25, 30 goals a year. And if you got to figure out what Batherson's number is and adjust accordingly. I saw something with like Rust and Raquel that could make sense. Maybe something with Spence and Rust and Raquel. They're both locked up for another 2 years at very cheap. I think that's very intriguing. I forget who sent that in on the show, but I think that could make sense. But I think Batherson is maybe better, but I think Tuck would be a better fit in Ottawa. Again, Batherson, they don't need Batherson types. They need someone that could score, that can put up 35 goals. They do need a goalie. The goalie is interesting because they're kind of stuck with Ullmark. They maybe need a backup. Should they take a flyer on like a Sebastian Costa, a Devon Levi? That's obviously tough because they're also Atlantic teams. They should maybe take a flyer on some younger goalies that maybe don't have a path to being their starter. But Ullmark's going to be the guy. Like they signed that contract. He is the guy for the foreseeable future. And he played good enough down the stretch and in the playoffs where you can somewhat live with it. Someone just said Raddysh to Toronto. Yeah, dude, we know. We've talked about it. Love you for stopping by, but that's old news. How many more teams? Shit, we still got a lot of teams left. Philadelphia. 30. I said I was going to go through every single team. 32 mil. They got Zegras, obviously, as restricted free agent. 7x8, 8x8. I know he's part-time winger, part-time center, but don't pussyfoot around that. He was so good for them this year and provided such offensive creation, such offensive playmaking that I think that it's a no-brainer to lock him up long-term in LA. LA. Why'd I just fucking say LA? In Philadelphia. Tyson Forrester, extension candidate. He was really good when healthy. You're maybe a little bit concerned about the injuries, but I would give him like a 7x6.5. I'd try to lock him up, get him on a surplus value contract, especially when you're not in that good of a salary cap situation. You need to take some risks and get some potential surplus value when you have deals. Like Konechny's not that bad, but like Couturier, like Dvorak, rest of these guys, who really cares? Drysdale, 5 years, 5 years, 6. Then you got a really dirt cheap goalie tandem. I'd let this year play out, especially now that you have Woll, instead of giving Vladar this 5-year deal at 5.5. I think that's a little bit risky. But yeah, they should be thinking in the trade market. Let's go over to this. I'm not thinking unrestricted free agency. I think they should stay away from that. I think McTavish, another Ducks player that maybe just didn't work with the Ducks, got passed in the depth chart. I think McTavish could be an interesting find. Again, I don't rate, what's his name? Luchenko or Nesbitt really at all. So I wouldn't hate taking a flyer on McTavish if it's cheap. Nyes, they don't really have the assets to do that. I don't know what that would look like. Shane Wright definitely would take a flyer on. William Karlsson just is kind of like a stopgap. Solid second line center, not Ryan O'Reilly. Simone Nemitz, not going to happen in division. Pettersson is the one guy where I'd be like, would you take a chance if you are Philly? Would you take a chance? Yeah, Matvei Michkov is also extension eligible. I just don't see a world where he signs an extension this summer after the season that he just had. He's definitely going to play it out. Whoops. What else? Yeah, it's tough. They're kind of pigeonholed themselves into a weird spot right now where I don't know. Do they go for it further? Do they just let the year play out? I don't know. Like, I wouldn't actually, no more thing about it, I wouldn't hate like a John Carlson on a 2-year deal. I wouldn't hate that. You look at them in terms of, let's go over here. Let's see Philadelphia. Like, they need that top power play offensive defenseman. They have Ristolainen, they have Drysdale. Could John Carlson make sense for them? Am I losing my mind for suggesting this? Is this a bad idea? Yeah, Barzal would be an interesting pick for Philadelphia. Just, don't see it happening in division. And I don't know what they would offer the Islanders unless it's like Michkov. Oh, yeah, Pettersson. Yeah, Pettersson and Tocchet. Yeah, that's a good point. But still, like, they might have to get desperate. The unrestricted free agency market is just so unattractive, and especially for a team like Philadelphia, they should stay away. Rasmus Anderson, 8-year deal. We're going for it. Like, Philly is a team that hopefully they don't get ahead of their skis in terms of playoffs, making the playoffs. Pittsburgh, $37 million of salary cap. They really don't have anybody locked up that long term. I think that the situation where, again, you take on bad contracts, you kind of take chances on some of these underrated guys, like you did with Elmer Soderblom, like you did with Yegor Chinnikov. Chinnikov, I think, 5-year deal at 5.5, I think makes sense. You've seen enough. I think he had like 34 points in 40 games with them, where I think you take a serious chance on him. You don't go like 8 years or anything like that, but you get that done. Mantha, you let him walk in free agency. He was not nearly good enough come playoff time, and he's going to want 4 years, $6 million. Other guys, extension talk. I think you just let it play out with Novak, Brazeau. Maybe you try to get like a 4x4 done. Carlson's tough. They say that they're not trading him this summer, but like, what is a Carlson extension going to look like? You let next season play out. If you're not nearly as good, then you start stripping away. I feel like that has to be the plan for the Pittsburgh Penguins. If they're out of a playoff spot at next year's deadline, you got to consider trading Rust. You got to consider trading Raquel, 33, 34 years old. Carlson, 36. Where like we're in an interesting situation where if they're good again and they play out next year and they not go for it, but like they're a playoff team again, and then you're just like, but they lose in the first round, and then you have to re-sign Carlson or lose him for nothing. Like, they need to pick a lane relatively soon. That's where I'm concerned. Really concerned for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're going to re-sign Shilovs. They might re-sign Stuart Skinner. 3 years, 3.5. Why not? But yeah, do they take, if they're going to go for it, do they take a chance on a Pedersen? Do they take, it would not be like obviously for like a Larkin, for like a Trocheck, that'd be insane. But do they take a chance on some of these maybe distressed assets that they think in their system, similarly to a Chinnikov, similarly to a Soderblom? Do they go all in for a Robertson? I don't know what that fucking deal would look like. I think that they should just play it by ear and kind of just see what they look like next year if last season was a fluke. I think Dubas will do the same. I don't think Dubas is going to panic and do something super aggressive based on making the playoffs. San Jose, $40.5 million in salary cap space. Graph, I think you go 5 years, 5. I think he probably takes that. I like that deal. He was like 20-20 this year. He is 23 years old. I think you try to get him on some kind of long-term deal. Celebrini's obviously extension eligible. You try to get him on an 8-year deal at God knows what. Any deal basically for Celebrini would be a good deal. And then Will Smith. I wouldn't hate playing Will Smith out next year. And maybe separating him from Celebrini a little bit more and seeing how he fares on his own. Can he drive offense? I love his passing. Can he drive a line? That is still to be determined. So I'd re-sign Celebrini to whatever he wants to take. If he wants cheaper, God bless him. But Smith, I'd probably hold off on. Kesselring, probably 2 years, 3.3 mil, if they gave up that much for him. 2 years, 2.5, something like that, maybe 3 years. In terms of in net, you're not extending Askarov after this season, at this season that he just had. Mershov's going to be the backup on Pittsburgh. Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, for San Jose, I think you don't rush it. You maybe overpay on some of the UFAs this summer in terms of like 2 to 3 year deals because they still have time. They still have so much salary cap. Like I wouldn't hate John Carlson on a 2-year deal at $10 million, considering even if they go Reed at second overall, he's not going to be a true impact guy for another like 2 years. So yeah, I think you maybe over AAV some of these guys. You don't give out, again, Darren Raddysh, I wouldn't have liked because it would have had to be an 8-year deal. But if John Carlson's like, yeah, I'll come play with you for 2 years, I'm down for that. Rasmus Anderson, I would stay far, far away. Who else? John Klingberg, run it back. I guess Carlson's really the only guy that I would go after if I am. Ryan Shea was an underrated guy this season for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He could be a nice pickup. In terms of the restricted free agents, they're a team that I would go after Spence. I would be willing to Tyler Toffoli, something around Tyler Toffoli for Jordan Spence. Fits the core better, fits the need at right side defense. And then imagine like a 1-2-3 combo of Reed, Spence, and Kesselring. Be pretty good in my books. Let's go over to the trade board. Trade board candidates. Dougie Hamilton, I think, is really interesting for San Jose. Carlson does want East. That's a good point. But maybe, again, if it's a 10.5 over 2 years, he's maybe like, I like the East, but also I like a lot of fucking money. In terms of the trade board, I think Dougie Hamilton's a guy that they could get for relatively cheap and just come in and be a top power play guy. They would have to get something for Morgan Riley or have some of that money retained because it's like 4 years at 7.5. But I could see the vision there. Vince Dunn, he's going to need a contract relatively soon. I wouldn't like that. Zellweger, they have enough left-handed defensemen where I'd probably stay away. Simone Nemitz could make sense. I'm lower on him than others. But again, right side defense is a serious concerns. D'Angelo to San Jose. Hell yeah, brother. 10.5 in San Jose might still be less than he's making out east. I mean, unless you're talking like he goes to one of the Florida teams like Tampa Bay, you're right. But like all the Metro teams are in pretty highly taxed markets. Like New York, Philadelphia, they're not paying chump change in tax. Yeah, Carlson to Philadelphia. That might be the one that we really hit on. I like that. Still don't like that Kiefer Sherwood extension, but we're fine with it. Chernyshov not extension eligible. Yeah, I don't think that they should go buck wild. Similarly to what they've been doing with Wenberg, with Toffoli, with Orlov, some shorter term deals with high AAVs, and then you just you just get rid of them in 2 years, and then let your young prospects that you have in the prospect pool come up and debut with the team. Nemeth's contract is going to be so bad. Yeah, whoever he gets traded to, he's probably going to have a lot of leverage with and probably slap him around. At second overall for San Jose, I do go best player available, but I would not hate Mr. Chase Reed. Seattle, the bane of my existence, the Seattle Kraken. They're not going to trade Jared McCann. They're not going to trade Vince Dunn. They're probably going to re-sign both on July 1st to 8-year deals at like $8 million. They probably should let Alexiak go at 7th overall this year in the draft. Defense, please, for the love of God. Unless like somehow, I'm trying to think, like Stenberg somehow there at 7th overall, they should go with defense. I know I'm usually best player available, but they have nothing in terms of the defensive pipeline. I'd re-sign Tolvanen. I know he hasn't been like an amazing fit in Seattle, but he probably won't cost that much. McMahon, he fits so well, but he's probably going to get re-signed, but I probably would let him walk. They have $28 million in salary cap. They're definitely going to re-sign him. Shane Wright, I'm just not that high on Shane Wright where I would trade him. I would get out of him now. If you can get an NHL piece for him, I really wouldn't mind that. In net, they have one more year of. You could maybe trade Grubauer and eat some money. Problem is, I don't know who the backup. They have the Finnish guy, Tope something, who could maybe be the AHL. Maybe you could eat some money on Grubauer and get something back because he was good this year. Yeah, watch Seattle. McMahon's 5-year deal at $6.5 million is going to make me want to fucking puke. They have some draft picks. I would like to see them try to trade up in this year's draft, get within that, like, I think they're picking up, what is this, 25th overall? I think. I would like to see them trade back into like the top 20. They could walk away with 2 really good defensemen. If they somehow got like, I'm trying to think, Keaton Verhoff and Tommy Blais in this draft, I'd be like, holy shit, that's really good work. So yeah, they're probably just going to re-sign Bobby McMahon. In terms of the trade market, some guys that they should be after. DeBrusque, no, that's not good. Braden Schneider, I would like if they went after Braden Schneider. He'd be a solid young defenseman there that could maybe flourish with an elevated role. But yeah, they're probably just going to re-sign their guys and probably going to sign like fucking Boone Jenner, their 97th straight center signing. We're not going to spend too much time on Seattle. St. Louis, 14. They only have 14. They have most of the guys locked up though. Yeah, no real pending unrestricted or restricted free agents. Joel Hofer is extension eligible though. I would sign him on like a 5x5. I think that he's proven enough these last couple of years, where especially last season, he was by far better than Binnington. Binnington, I would look to move off of if there's takers. What's his trade clause? Only a 10-team no trade list. I'd be willing to eat like $1 to $2 million so I can get like a 2nd round pick, a solid prospect for Jordan Binnington. So I would move off him. The rest, Snuggerud. Ooh, what would a Snuggerud extension? I'd do a 7x7.5 July 1st. Hofer 6 years, 5.5. I think 5x5.5. Him and Jet Greaves, I'm willing to go long term. They've proven so much at the AHL in the NHL where I'm ready to go. And again, with Detroit, St. Louis this year, 3 first-round picks. No second, but also 3 third-round picks, where I'd like to see them maybe move up into the top 10 if they could and get one of the premier defensemen in this draft. I really like their forward core. The defense is still a little bit shaky in terms of the future. In terms of guys that I don't think that they're going to be targeting guys in terms of like high-level trades. Yeah, nobody's really a good fit on the trade market for St. Louis, I would say. Obviously, they have some of their own guys on the trade market, like Binnington, like Thomas. I think that they need one more year of this kind of retool, and then they're going to be set. They're in a good spot. One more year. If Kyrou doesn't turn it around, maybe ship him out. Cam Fowler getting up there in age. That 6.1 doesn't look nearly as good now. Parayko, maybe if he warms up. They shouldn't be rushing it. use your 3 picks or maybe trade up. Get some serious difference makers. Malu was much better, but I'm just saying, like, a top 15 pick defenseman this year will be ahead of Malu in the organization, in my opinion. Tampa Bay, $13 million, and none of that is going to... St. Louis, another offer sheet to Bork, to Samoskevich. Bork would be a really good fit. He could be their future third-line center. And then you could maybe flip Pius Suter if you did that. But yeah, Tampa now has 13 mil. They're not going to be re-signing Darren Raddysh. Bjorkstrand's gone. So they just have 13 mil, basically. I would try to upgrade the backup goalie position. Draft pick-wise, they don't have much, but they didn't do much at the deadline, so they have their 2028, 2029. So if I'm looking at them, like, the right side of the defense is a little bit shaky. JJ Mosier can play the right side. Chernak's on the right side. It's tough, man, because their forward core, in theory, should be good enough, but it hasn't been good enough the last couple of years. You look at the trade board, and do they really go for it? But who would be the go for it move? If Vince Dunn had more term, I would like Vince Dunn in Tampa Bay as a top pair offensive defenseman. Yeah, I don't know what they do with this money. I think that they might just decide, like, we're spreading the wealth. Let me know. Let me know in the live chat. What do you think Tampa does? Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, I mean, Carlson on a 2 to 3 year deal makes sense. Carlson on a 2-year deal really makes sense, especially no state tax. Maybe that's just the move. They have more flexibility long term, and they bring in Carlson on the short term. And Carlson wants to win. He wants to go back east. He'll save a lot of money in Florida. That might just be the move. They obviously can't make any offers on fucking RFAs. They don't have their picks. But yeah, maybe they're just really banking on Carlson, because I look at this trade board. Maybe they bring in Hamilton, 3 years, $9 million. But again, apparently New Jersey, Sonny Meta is fine with Hamilton. They need a power forward. That's a good point. They're not going after Matthew Nyes, but yeah, someone said Owen Tippett. That could make sense. Why does Tampa Bay need Carlson? I'm just not that high on Hedman at this point. Hedman is a big-time concern going forward. I guess I'm kind of, I mean, I trust Julien Brisebois, but they're going to have to get creative. Yeah, trade Braden Point. I floated that before. He has his full no move ends the following season. He has one more year, and then it goes down to a 10-team no trade list. But yeah, Tampa's going to get creative. Maybe I'm not seeing the board. Maybe they go crazy. But I'm just not sure what the move is right now. Toronto's already cooking. We already know that. They're going to be adding Gavin McKenna. 18 mil, and that is factoring in the latest Darren Raddysh. Yeah, Logan, I mean, Hedman was good 2 years ago. He's just not the same player because of injuries, because of the stuff that he's been dealing with off the ice. You can't rely on a 36-year-old Victor Hedman to be your number one. But yeah, Toronto, Morgan Riley obviously might be on the way out. The more I think about it, the more I think they might actually get assets for him, because everybody has so much money, and everybody needs offensive defensemen, puck-moving defensemen. Michelli, I would bring back. I think Chaco will. He has good underlying numbers. He is undersized. He doesn't really care about that if he got Emile Andre. Emile Andre, probably like a 2 to 3 year deal at like $2 million if they believe in him. Urson's walking. They have Hildeby. Let me look up the goalie that I couldn't pronounce. Akhtayamov is also going to be fighting for that backup job. So they have some more money laying around. They're going to have like $12, $15 million laying around. And that's also, they could potentially trade Matthew Nyes. I see the vision to trade Matthew Nyes if you're getting like a legit defenseman. The problem is, again, I just don't know what kind of defensemen are out there. There's no Noah Dobson this summer where I go, okay, that makes sense. They're not trading him for Vince Dunn in picks. I've seen the rumors for like the 4th overall pick for Chicago, but if you're trading for Darren Raddysh, why would you then take the 4th overall pick? That's like such weird time. Then you're running such weird timelines with Raddysh Nylander, and Matthews versus McKenna in the 4th overall pick. I don't like that. I don't think that they're going to get that active in free agency. I don't think John Carlson's coming after they got Darren Raddysh. So it's going to be interesting. Any of these RFAs? No, not happening. Let me know what you think on the Leafs. McDavid to Tampa. Okay, yeah, sure. Maybe, honestly, maybe in a season or two, but not this summer. We'll make his shot. Yeah, again, I'm higher on the Raddysh signing than others. Utah Mammoth, this is a team that, unless they are getting a Robert Thomas, a Nico Hischier, a Dylan Larkin to be that second-line center, I really don't think that they should be doing much. They have most of the core locked up. Cooley, Schmaltz is now locked up. Peterka, Keller, you're going to have to lock him up on a fat contract in 2 seasons. Gunther's locked up. Sergachev's locked up. Uyghur has a long-term contract. I don't think you go buck wild, especially in the Central Division. Whoops, I don't even have the team pulled up. My bad. As I was saying, these guys are all locked up. This team is not fully in their contention window yet. I don't think they should force their contention window this summer. I think you take it slow and steady. You have a lot of interesting prospects like Shemashev, like Boot, like Denoyer, where unless you're getting, again, literally a Larkin, not even a Trocheck, I didn't even put Thomas on this, you're not going crazy. Do not trade a Denoyer. Do not trade a Ginla. Let it play out. Let Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota go crazy the next 3 years, and then you just come up. That's really what I think Utah should do. I wouldn't hate some veteran pickups. They have the salary cap. I wouldn't hate Anders Lee in Utah as a veteran leader. I wouldn't hate Zuccarello if he's willing to go there. But in terms of like long-term guys like Bobby McMahon, like Marchment, no, stay away, please. I'm begging you. Offer sheet candidates, could they throw an offer sheet like Sam Miskevich or Bork's way? It's definitely possible. I would love to see them throw an offer sheet at like Brant Clark. Do they have most of they have their picks, right? I'd imagine. Yeah. They could be a sneaky offer sheet team. 13 million cap. Actually, no, they don't have that much cap to seriously offer sheet someone that's like a true difference maker. They could be a good Kosa fit. No, but they have Hrabal. What am I talking about? But Kosa maybe could be quicker or sooner to the NHL level. But yeah, they're probably going to bring back Barrett, Hayden. They're probably going to bring back Yamamoto. Do they have any like egregiously bad contracts? The Tanev deal is brutal. I don't know why they did that. I'd move off that. But yeah, they're in a good spot. Don't rush it. That'd be my advice to them. Let me know what you guys think. Peterka for Pinto/Cousins. Ooh, that's intriguing. That's definitely intriguing. Probably for Pinto. I think Cousins has kind of earned that second line center spot. Peterka for Ottawa. I do like that idea. We're going to move on to the Canucks. 21 million salary cap space. If someone's willing to give you a decent amount for Pettersson, do it. I think he's probably going to be on the team for another 2 to 3 years. Then when the salary cap, either you just keep him as a second line center and he bounces back, or when the cap hit isn't as egregious, you move off him. Brock Besser, if someone's willing to take him, if he's willing to go, I don't think that he will be. DeBrusk's a full no move, but apparently he's willing to waive it. Yeah, they're just a team that needs to think about the future, take on some bad contracts, but I don't think that they should do anything crazy. At 3rd overall, they're going to go with Caleb Malhotra. That's crazy. That tandem is making $13 million. But no, they're just going to wait and see. They are a young team. Don't get crazy with it. Vegas is interesting, though. $4.6 million of salary cap space. Dorofiev's an RFA. Sod Smith are RFAs. Rasmus Anderson is a UFA. Sorry, I'm getting tired at this point. We've been going for 2 hours. Thank you to everybody that has continued to watch. But yeah, they need to. How are they opening up this money? It might have to be trading William Karlsson. That's why I suggested that. A 10-team, no trade list. Meanwhile, Tomas Hertl has a 3-team approved trade list. You can move off Nick Dowd for $3 million, but you did just give up a second and a third round pick for him. You're not moving Cole. You can maybe move off Cole. Sorry, you're definitely not moving off Howden. Korzak, that's a fine contract. They're going to have to... Aiden Hill is so hard to move. He's got $6.25 million for another 5 seasons. So yeah, it might have to be Carlson to make this work, to make the money work. Carter Hart, $2 million. They're keeping him. Stone has a no move. Stone has a no move. So he holds some of the cards. Where I think Carlson's that one guy where they will get actual assets back. So maybe you just think you trade away Carlson, you re-sign Dorofeev, and then at the deadline you use those Carlson assets for some kind of piece. You say Hill, but Hill is making 6.25 for another 5 years. It is a brutal contract. If he had another year or two, I could see someone taking him on. That's just not the case. No, again, they have 4.625 right now. Unless I'm missing something. This is the 2026, 2027. Oh, it's not counting the Pietrangelo money. It's not, right? You are right. Fuck. My bad. Good catch. Pietrangelo to LTIR, they have about 12 mil. But still, if they want to even at all change up, they just made the Stanley Cup final. Okay, they are going to be more manageable, but they are going to have to let some guys walk. My bad. Pietrangelo to LTIR makes it feasible. They're definitely going to have to let Anderson walk. They might have to let Coughlin. Coughlin might have, he's not going to get a ton of money, but he might have earned himself like a $1.52 million deal based on that playoff run. So yeah, it is more feasible. My bad. Good catch. Washington, they have a shit ton of salary cap space. $31 million. 31 mil, and they only have Ovechkin, Connor McMichael, Trevor Van Riemsdyk as free agents. So they have a lot of money to go crazy in free. Imagine they re-sign John Carlson. Is that ridiculous? They just take on, they get the 18th overall pick for Carlson and then get him back in free agency. I don't think that's going to happen, especially again with Cole Hudson kind of taking over a big offensive workload. Him and Chychrun are going to be on the top 2 power plays for the foreseeable future. Still would be pretty funny. They should obviously be in like the RFA market. Try to poach some guys, trade some guys in terms of potential trade pieces for them. Maybe a Nyes package. I don't know what exactly that would look like. Would you do something around Chychrun and Nyes? If you really believe in Cole Hudson being your number one. Jordan Kyrou, I think, would make a lot of sense for Washington if they're trying to bolster their forward core. They have the salary cap to take him on at $8.125 million. Robertson would be a dream. Again, I just don't think that he's that feasible, but he would be a dream for Washington. Finally give them that like legit number one winger that they haven't had since like Prime Ovechkin. It's going to be interesting, man. They should get really creative. Is there a team that I think could be primed to get back into the playoffs, to seriously be a threat in the Metro Division? They're Carolina's potential toughest competition. In terms of extensions, Sortif, I'd sign a 5x5 tomorrow. He was so good for them. Leonard, I would go 8 years, 6.5, 8 years, 7 mil, and not think twice about it. Hudson still has 2 years left. They're just in a really good spot cap-wise. They're in a really, really good spot. They need players to become available that they could take swings on. They had the 16th and 17th overall picks that they could maybe move. But again, unless it's for a true difference maker, I don't love the idea of it. Kyrou maybe could be that. I don't know if he'd be a true difference maker. Robertson would be that. Let me know what you think. McCann to Washington. I don't know if McCann... Maybe for like the 18th overall pick, call it a day. I don't know if McCann fully moves the needle that much where you have to give. The thing with Kyrou is at least he's locked up at $8 million. McCann, you probably have to give him an 8-year deal at like 8.5. where that definitely scares me. But they should get super aggressive. 16 and 17 for Cairo. I think for Cairo, like 16 or 18 in like a prospect. I don't know if you have to trade both of those picks. Again, Noah Dobson, basically. That was basically the Noah Dobson package on top of a young bottom 6 forward. I don't think it would be that expensive. I think it would be like 16th in Milton Gastrin or something like that for St. Louis to accept. But Washington's a really intriguing team, man. Really intriguing. Then we're finishing it off with the Winnipeg Jets, of course. Connor Hellebuyck's in trade talks, man. There's serious smoke around Connor Hellebuyck, and if they trade him, it should be a package for a younger player. It will drive me crazy if they trade Connor Hellebuyck and it's for like an old second line center and like a second round pick and like a defenseman. This is a team that should embrace getting younger, should embrace some form of a rebuild, borderline retool. As you can see, Morrissey only has 2 years left. Morrissey's 31 years old. Mark Scheifele's awesome, but he's 33 years old. Oh, he doesn't have, it goes down to a 10-team approved trade list. Kyle Connor's 29 years old. This team needs to embrace the youth. This team needs to admit that it's probably over. Because the thing with Connor Hellebuyck, if you trade Connor Hellebuyck, you're probably not getting a stud goalie back. And if you don't have Connor Hellebuyck, you're just not making the playoffs next year. I don't know. Like I like the idea of like the 9th overall pick in Mackie Samoskevich. And then maybe something on top of that as well. Or just Lindell in a second for Connor Hellebuyck. He's a forward. I mean, he's a goalie. He's not going to get that much in a trade return. Pionk deal is really horrendous. But yeah, when they trade Hellebuyck, that's going to really tell me like what I think about the future of the Jets. Because if it is for like a 28-year-old, I'm going to be like, they think that they could still win. Like, this is a disaster. But if they opt for the 23-year-old forward or 23-year-old defenseman or 23-year-old goalie and a first, then maybe we're cooking. Because again, if they start selling, Josh Morrissey would get an absolute haul. Mark Scheifele, everybody needs a fucking center, would get a haul. Kyle Connor, superstar borderline when he's really on in the regular season at least, winger. They could get a haul. Nick Lyman was saying Helly plus Sandberg to Buffalo for power, 20th overall, and Hellenius. I don't think Buffalo does that, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think Buffalo needs Hellebuyck. I love Nick Lyman, though. He's my boy. But I think like we're looking at the 9th overall pick in Samoskevich in a second or 2 seconds. I think it makes sense. Teams that need Hellebuyck include, let's just go through here. Buffalo, again, I don't think. Anaheim, they have Dashdahl, but I'm not that high on Dashdahl. A Dashdahl swap plus could be interesting. Florida, Edmonton, they just don't have the assets. New Jersey, what is it going to be? Markstrom, Nemitz. They don't have a ton of assets, and they'd have to give up the Markstrom deal, which is shit. Ottawa, not. Yeah, like it's weird. Everybody would obviously want Hellebuyck. It's just he is 32, 33 years old. He is making $8.5 million, where it's tough for a lot of teams to make it work. I think Hellebuyck, if anything, it's going to be Florida, which is going to drive people fucking insane. I'm just trying to see other fits. Minnesota, no. LA, no. I mean, LA would be pretty funny, but I don't think that they're a Hellebuyck away from being a serious team. Seattle. He's not waving for Seattle. That's the other thing. It's a mix of top tier contenders usually don't need that superstar goalie, or they already have a superstar goalie, and he's probably only going to waive for like 8 teams, if we're going to be honest. So I think it probably will be Florida if it is anybody. Carolina, I've seen got floated. I just don't think that makes a ton of sense. Utah could make sense. But it would be Hrabal. What would a Utah package be? It's interesting. Hrabal, Hayden, Hrabal, Boot, and Yeah, I don't know. Maverick Lamoureux. No, that's not even close to being good enough. The 19th overall pick, Michael Hrabel, and let's say, I honestly don't know. My brain is fucking fried right now. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the live chat what your Hellebuck deals would look like. I'm not gonna lie, we've been going for 2 hours, 10 minutes. I am feeling lightheaded at this point. Thank you, everybody that watched our longest, by far our longest live show yet. I said I was going to do all 32 teams. We did all 32 goddamn teams. I should have ran a bit where I just like didn't do Seattle or something like that. Boot, that Russian D-man, and Paterka. Do you mean Sergachev? Do you mean that could be interesting? Or yeah, maybe Boot, Paterka in the 19th overall pick for Hellebuck. Maybe that could make some sense. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about some of these offseason previews? What do you think about the Darren Raddysh trade? Next week, we will hopefully have, I'm going to probably have a draft expert on to talk about the draft. That is, of course, in 1 week. We're going to have some guests on. Let me know. I am going to go drink some water and eat some food. I am fucking tired after this 2 hour. I don't get how some people do like 3-hour live radio shows or just like TV shows. That is insane. I am tired. I guess they have like commercial breaks and stuff. I am tired. This was fun. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next one.